of your ballot. On election day, you must make your ballot at a voting booth. Follow instructions and fold your ballot so that your mark isn't exposed. Be careful. If you expose your mark, your ballot will be declared spoiled. No one should ask you to expose your mark. This is a criminal offense. Your ballot can't be traced back to you once the counterfoil has been removed. Don't break the law, and don't let anyone influence you to do so. Remember, your vote is secret.
Election campaign financing legislation empowers all Jamaicans to know how election campaigns are funded.
All gifts, sponsorships, and monies donated to a political party or candidate must be disclosed. Contributors may give a maximum of $1.5 million per candidate and up to $31.5 million to a registered political party. Contributors of $250,000 and more must declare contributions and any government contracts valued $500,000 or more, which are held or gained up to 2 years prior or after a contribution. Candidates, political parties, and contributors who fail to disclose are guilty of an offense and liable to charges and/or a term of imprisonment.
Welcome to the first of 3 political debates organized by the Jamaica Debates Commission and staged before a live studio audience. The debates are intended to assist in identifying, clarifying, and understanding the issues being presented in this general election campaign. This evening's debate focuses on social issues and is a team debate. Members of the panel of questioners are Natalie Campbell, IRI FM, Romardo Lyons, TVJ, and taking and presenting questions from the public is our social media editor, Amoy Harriet, CVM TV. I am your moderator, Janella Precious. As is customary, the audience is prohibited from applauding the debaters except for now, after we've announced each team. For Team JLP, Matthew Samuda. You can clap. For Team PNP, Raymond Price. Up next is the JLP's Kamina Johnson-Smith. Also joining Team PNP is Sophia Fraser-Binns. And for the JLP, Pernell Charles Jr. And for Team PNP, Damian Crawford. The guidelines for tonight's debates have been previously agreed and are posted on the Debate Commission's website at www.jamaicadebatescommission.com. The guidelines include questions being no longer than 30 seconds and each team being allowed 90 seconds to respond to each question, and rebuttals are limited to 45 seconds. The questions posed in tonight's debate will come from 2 sources. The first, you, the public. You can send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. These will be checked, selected, and asked by our social media editor. The second source of questions is from our panel of journalists. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, there will be no interpretation for the deaf and hearing impaired. Now, based on a previous coin toss, the first question tonight comes from Natalie Campbell, and it will be directed to Team PNP.
Good evening. The People's National Party has been highly critical of several Jamaica Labour Party programs, including the rural school bus system. You say you have better options. Which programs have you earmarked for immediate discontinuation, and what timeline are you proposing of replacement programs to ensure continuity of service to Jamaicans?
Good afternoon. Good evening, and thank you for that question. Productivity means that there is a balance between effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness means doing the right thing, and efficiency means doing the thing right. Indeed, the separation of students from adults and the organized contribution of carrying them to school is a wonderful concept. However, how the JLP intended to execute, I believe, is highly inefficient. First of all, the cost of buses for 300 million based on the information we have received, and then 800 million for the refurbishing of those buses would indicate an inefficient use of resources. Additionally, we have seen where new buses, Toyota buses, coaster buses that could have been used would have been a more appropriate purchase, and that would have been within the same cost. Additionally, the ineffectiveness of these bus systems would suggest that very few children would be able to be moved. We have over 440,000 children to be moved, and at this point, those buses will be best capable to move between 4,000 and 8,000 on each day, indicating that the vast majority of children will still not benefit from that program. And so one thing that we'll immediately discontinue is one that doesn't incorporate the principals, the guidance counselors, and be more targeted in ensuring that those who are finding it most difficult to get to school are able to get to school, in particular deep rural children.
Thank you so much. Team JLP, your rebuttal.
Thank you. The Jamaica Labour Party is doing what the PNP has not and cannot do. We want to keep our children safer. And we are using the savings, $1 billion savings from the JUTC, where we have cut theft of diesel and shifted to CNG, to buy 110 new buses at $1.4 billion for our children. The parents will save $180,000 per year annually per child, and the children will be safer, greater attendance, they'll be safer at school, cameras, wardens. Why not? It's best for the country.
Thank you very much. Romardo has the next question, and it will go to Team JLP.
Good evening. Despite the 2025 changes to NHD loan limits and the modifications so more minimum wage earners can qualify for grants, many youngsters have lost hope of one day owning a home. What will you do to ensure that in multiple offer situations for properties, youngsters aren't outbid by older Jamaicans with much more to offer?
Firstly, thank you for that question. The Jamaica Labour Party has ensured that we focus on our youth. On a general way, we have increased minimum wage, we have increased support for youth, we have specialized in terms of ensuring that our youth are particularly aligned in terms of delivering houses. There's a special allocation under the NHT, and while we increase loan limits and increase the income bands, we've ensured that there's greater access to housing for our youth and for all Jamaicans. Let's be clear. How we have managed the economy is exactly why we now have enough money to increase housing solutions to 34,000 houses and 60,000 more to come. Even the youth who you may define as within poverty lines are being taken care of through the social housing program, which we provided more than 300 and much more to come. For the Jamaica Labour Party administration, housing solutions, housing developments, and the total national development is based on the fact that we have not only been able to save more, but our focus is on increasing economic development completely as a country that has suffered wage freezes, suffered heavy taxes. For 8 years, we've had no new taxes. All of these things have impacted our youth positively. So the youth have more money in their pockets as we also increase the tax threshold. So the youth who are at the entry level are able to present more to the NHT.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Team PNP, your rebuttal.
It's hard to rebut someone who seems not to know what he was saying. So I'll go to the substantive response. The People's National Party manifesto makes it very clear. We have several programs that will make it easier for the average Jamaican, young people in particular, to own their own home. One of which is waiving the requirements for them to be able to pay the closing costs to the amount of $500,000 per person. We will also allow them through the rent-to-own program for those who do not have a payslip or work as barbers or tattoo artists to use their rent in a house built by the NHD. That rent will be converted to a mortgage, and their credit rating will be based on their propensity to continue paying.
Thank you so much. I think we can take a question from social media. Amoy?
Thanks, Janella. Well, this social media question comes from the Jamaica Environment Trust, JED. They're asking, industrial pollution incidents like the repeated Rio Cobra fish kills continue without meaningful consequences for polluters. What measures will your government put in place to guarantee stronger deterrence?
No secret that as a country we have not been protecting the environment as we should. The People's National Party is committed to protecting the environment. We will ensure that the body that is charged with the protection of the environment does its work. And so we will have a second look at NEPA. We will make NEPA independent, and we will also create an independent tribunal for NEPA. Apart from that, the environment impact assessment is something that we must look at. The People's National Party is committed to ensuring that the requirement for environment impact assessment is legislated. For us in the People's National Party, we can't talk about the economic development. We cannot talk about community development unless there is the protection of the environment. And we are committed to doing that. We will do this by ensuring that communities are part of the decision-making process when it comes on to environmental issues. And that is why we are committed to signing the Escazú Agreement, which will ensure that there is access to information so people know about development or pollution in their area, that the community has an opportunity to speak and share their views, and certainly that there will be access to justice when environmental rights are breached. That is our commitment from the People's National Party, because time comes to protect the environment.
Thank you so much. Team JLP, your rebuttal.
The People's National Party has never been serious about environmental protection. In their last time at the wicket, they proposed a coal plant to generate electricity in St. Elizabeth. They proposed the development of the logistics hub in the Goat Islands, including saying only 2 Little Lizard was over there by the former minister in charge. But beyond that, they have a leader who could not bring himself to vote for the plastic ban when the matter came to the Senate. They have never demonstrated environmental leadership. This government has. It is why at the last time there was a serious industrial incident in the Rio Cobra, this government drew down on a $117 million bond, the single largest consequence for environmental breach in the country's history. It is why this government also passed recent amendments to the NRCA Act that allowed body corporates to be charged upwards of $10 million at a judge's discretion. This government is serious about the environment. We have demonstrated so. We have demonstrated so internationally, and it is why we will continue to lead with new elements of the plastic ban, with amendments to WLPA, with accession to the SPA protocol, and it is why we are recognized as an environmental leader globally.
So we're just getting started. It's now time for a short break, but there will be more when we return. And welcome back to the social issues debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. Now we invite Romardo Lyons to begin this segment with a question for Team PNP.
Last year, just a little over 1,000 councillors were employed within the public school system. In some cases, one councillor served up to 3 schools. That's one individual to thousands of students. Your 2025 manifesto promises a Jamaican education system that is globally competitive. How do you plan to fix the student-councillor ratio?
Thank you very much for the question. Indeed, it is our intention to ensure that we have an improved education system. The current reality is that it is moving in the wrong direction. In 2015, literacy in Jamaica was 84%. Currently, it's 65%. Indeed, in 2015, 5 subjects, including math and English, was 28%. Currently, it is 19%. In fact, to use mathematics, which the government has recently celebrated, after last year, the minister indicated that it was a critical problem. This year, with much hoopla and celebration, only 9 dege more children passed mathematics. And they said it was a great occurrence. The People's National Party will accept and acknowledge where we are, because in 2015, 14,000 Jamaican children passed mathematics, and in 2025, only 7,826 Jamaican children passed mathematics. This is a part of the malaise that is happening within the education system. What we will do in particular as it relates to guidance counseling is to incorporate and hire more guidance counselors, but also to form the Department of Socialization to utilize not only the guidance counselors, the deans of disciplines, and also the persons who are most familiar with the children, which would be the form teachers. That will expand the number of adults to children ratio and have the guidance counselor be informed by those who are most related to the students.
Team JLP, your rebuttal.
The Jamaica Labour Party believes in our children, and it believes in their social well-being, their mental health, and their support to ensure that they will be their best selves and then become the best productive citizens of Jamaica. We certainly recognize that education is not where it needs to be, and that's why we commissioned the Education Transformation Commission, led by Orlando Patterson. We have set up a plan. We have 30% in. We know what's not measured does not get done. The PNP talks about transformation, but they have never transformed anything in this country. We will ensure under a trend program with more involved parents, more empowered teachers, more involved students.
Thank you so much, Ms.
That our students succeed.
Thank you so much. Our next question comes from Natalie, and it is for Team JLP.
As Jamaica seeks to harness the economic potential of large-scale entertainment events, what is your strategy to ensure that these opportunities are balanced with the fundamental rights of motorists and residents to freely move without undue disruption to their lives?
It's no secret that urban planning was lacking for the last 50 years. It's no secret that the heartbeat of Jamaica has been its cultural and entertainment industries. It's no secret that under the leadership of Olivia Babsy-Grange, Jamaica has grown from strength to strength in harnessing the power of these awesome industries. In the next term of government, the JLP will ensure that all urban planning for our town centres contemplates and plans for entertainment zones. We have also moved rapidly to ensure we have reserved space for 24-hour event zones. But that is but one part of the parcel. The next component also has to be how you encourage the human capital. But encouraging the human capital has to create the structures that allows young people to see a total future in it. It is why we're proud of the pension scheme that has been introduced for our entertainers, because our young people now know that there's indeed a future. But beyond that, we have structured our tax regimes in a manner that will encourage significant investment in the entertainment sector. We have created a space where those who wish to invest in movies, those who wish to invest in sound, will indeed come to Jamaica. We're not going to throw new funds that we know will indeed trigger new taxes, because that indeed has been the hallmark of the PNP, new taxes.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. Team PNP, your rebuttal.
Yes, it is no doubt that the orange economy is called orange for a reason. The People's National Party has been central to the development of entertainment in this country. Indeed, the tools of trade was introduced by the People's National Party for the extension of benefits to the entertainment industry, so that they too could act as if the manufacturing, farming and other industries in the importation of their inputs. In addition, it seems that the taxes are not the only things that are being stolen by the Jamaica Labour Party, because the idea for the entertainment zone originated with the People's National Party. What is crazy is that the Jamaica Labour Party believes that the solution is in one single venue, and one single venue cannot solve a problem that exists throughout the entire country. We will ensure appropriate zones and community zones.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford. And now, before we go to our social media, Natalie has indicated that she would like to use her first of 2 follow-up questions so that our viewers understand the process. Both questioners have the ability, or they can ask 2 follow-up questions, and both teams have 45 seconds within which to answer the question. Natalie, go ahead.
So I wanted to hear more about the balancing of how do you protect the motorists and the residents who have undue delays and been stuck in traffic for hours in the interim until those zones are designated up and running?
Well, obviously the zones are indeed the long-term strategy, but in the interim we'll bring all stakeholders together, being the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the municipalities, and the promoters themselves, to ensure that there's adequate parking. We would have instituted many park and ride events for national events, which would have seen significant reductions in traffic. But just to note, the idea for the entertainment zone did not originate with the PNP. It actually originated with Edward Philip George Siaga. And it is this party that has had the strongest relationship with the cultural industries and has put its money by way of investment into these industries. But to be clear, the infrastructure that is required is being invested in by this administration in multiple venues. Thank you
so much, Mr. Samuda. Thank you so much. Team PNP, your 45-second rebuttal.
This sounds like the same claim that Edward Siaga also was the originator for the idea of Portmore, and that too was a lie. However, what we have recognized is that we can separate the people from the events by partnering with agro-parks to have a section within agro-parks reserved for what we call party town, multi-zones, multi-venue zones that persons can gravitate to and know where entertainment activities are. What we have also recognized is the bias within the Jamaica Labour Party of how entertainment is treated, because large events such as Sumfest has never obeyed the Noise Abatement Act, but all the round robins must obey the Noise Abatement Act. We will ensure equity by allowing for an appropriate approval for extensions that persons can apply for, regardless if you're large or small.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford. We now go to social media. Amoy has a question, and she will direct it to the respective team.
All right, so to revisit the topic of education, Alpha Media on Instagram is asking, COVID-19 exposed deep gaps in digital access. What are your concrete plans to ensure every Jamaican student has access to reliable internet and digital devices?
And that question goes to Team PNP.
Thank you very much. It is important at this point that we expose what some of the ridiculous approaches have been from the Jamaica Labour Party. They indicate that they have been doing extensive investments in schools. However, with the schools in need of approximately 1,000 students, needing up to 210 megabytes, the highest capacity of those providers is 35 megabytes. Some of those contracts that have been given are incapable to reach even 15 megabytes so that they can officially and can appropriately be utilized. Indeed, having invested over $2 billion in e-books, the newspaper reported that many teachers indicated that the inability to access them in their classes made the e-books ineffective and inefficient. What the People's National Party will do, first of all, is to build out the last mile of fiber so that more persons in the rural spaces can access. Additionally, we understand the pairing of energy with the internet, and by extension, we will also build out the last mile for electricity access using solar implementation. We will use as a school multiplier, force multiplier, teacher multiplier, impact multiplier, the technology through AI, in particular for helping teachers with marking, helping teachers with the lesson planning, and also helping students to access information in an appropriate and effective way. So the People's National Party will embrace technology in our schools and expand the reach so that our students can benefit.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford. Team JLP, your 45-second rebuttal. I'm sorry, your 1 minute 30 rebuttal.
The PNP talks a good talk about technology in schools, but it is the Jamaica Labour Party, through its National Broadband Initiative, that has ensured that more than 700 schools are connected with broadband. And we've made sure that not only are our children at school connected, but we have rolled out more than 380 free public Wi-Fi hotspots that make sure that when children leave school, they're still able to be connected as our teachers. We've handed out more than 200,000 tablets. We've trained our teachers and given them vouchers for tablets and laptops in particular. We're providing digital equipment for classrooms. We're ensuring we've completed an audit of all our labs to ensure that they're provided for with the best technology in rural and urban. So from St. Thomas to Hanover, all our children must have access to the best technology, and location should not determine your education. The Jamaica Labour Party is uplifting education in every corner of Jamaica, and we're continuing to do what the PNP likes to talk about. We are also ensuring that we will provide, I must speak to the matter of the creative villages, that we will be providing 100 of them in our next administration, should the public trust us. We will also be training through our Creative and Cultural Institute, and we will be also providing for creative special economic zones that will create the next generation of jobs.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson-Smith. Our next question, it comes from Romardo, and it goes to Team PNP.
In 2022, the Jamaica Observer exposed the harsh exploitative conditions under which many call center workers work. If elected, what will you do to fix these issues that contradict labor laws in the BPO sector?
You know, the start of that question is an acknowledgement that the provision of modern access to technology, including the internet, including broadband, including fiber optics, began with the liberalization of the telecommunications sector when Philip Powell was a minister with responsibility. My opponents opposite seem to be having an issue putting the correct time frame to the responses. In other words, a seeming disconnect with reality. With respect to the BPO sector, one of the most recent industries facilitated by the technological advancement, there are serious concerns with respect to conditions of work, pay, time off, even sick leave, things that the Jamaican workplace has considered for many years to be a right. These BPO operators, the contractors, are not necessarily from the Jamaican space. So more integration has to be done so that they understand what our labor laws are and what the members of the Jamaican workforce have come to expect, including things such as maternity leave with pay and equal work for women. In the PNP administration led by Mark Golding, we will begin that education process, that integration process, and allow our partners in the BPO to understand the nuances.
Mr. Price. Thank you so much, Mr. Price. Team JLP, your 45-second rebuttal.
Thank you. The BPO sector, like the tourism sector, is offering a significant opportunity for many of our entry-level youngsters to have good jobs, jobs that will allow them to be able to get not just revenue, but work experience. And it's important to know that the government not only sees the expansion in the BPO sector, but through the inspectorate at the Ministry of Labour, we ensure to speak to employers and employees and to monitor, to make sure that where there are any abuses, we take the necessary steps immediately, whether it is to carry them to court or whether it is to bring to constructive social dialogue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles Jr. We're moving on. Natalie has the next question, and it is to Team JLP.
Jamaicans seeking care at public hospitals continue to face long lines, shortage of medical staff, overcrowding with the difficulty getting a bed if admitted, and long waits for clinic appointments. What is it going to require to improve patient care at public hospitals and other healthcare facilities?
Let me say this. the government takes it very seriously in terms of improving the health infrastructure. We have upgraded 138 of our health centers. We have rebuilt and restructured key hospitals and are starting to construct the regional children and adolescent hospital. And most importantly, in addition to the health infrastructure development, we are and have created 3,000 positions for medical professionals with 1,000 community aids and 600 scholarships, which means not only better infrastructure for health, but better staffing of professionals who will be able to provide better service to the patients in Jamaica. We take this very seriously, and that is why under this government, we have seen where not only the 138 health centers and the key hospitals, but the expansion of NHF, the expansion of the hours and services, all of these providing a comprehensive delivery of service for the people of Jamaica.
It's important to remember that the Jamaica Labour Party inherited a health sector in absolute crisis, where their own opposition spokesperson said that surgeons had to be wearing garbage bags to operate.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kamina Johnson-Smith. PNP, your 45-second rebuttal.
If there's any evidence of the Jamaica Labour Party's failure, it is evident in the health system. Indeed, Cornwall Regional is an excellent example, having moved from $2 billion all the way to $22 billion and still not complete. Mammograms in our public sector is only 2 mammograms in our public sector. And the #1 hospitals in Jamaica, also including our Children's Hospital, does not have an MRI or a CT scan available. Indeed, the number of children that has died neonatals has gone up to 246 over the last 2 years.
You know, the better proof of it is the absence of the Minister of Health at a social issues debate where he should have answered to his appalling track record. He's now been there over the economic debate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Price. We take a question now from our social media editor, Amoy.
Thanks, Janella. Well, this question comes from Nita's Funeral Home. They're asking, funeral homes contribute significantly to Jamaica's economy, yet the industry remains largely under-regulated and under-supported. How do you plan to formalize the industry, ensure proper insurance options for families, and use the sector's contributions to expand opportunities such as national scholarships for Jamaicans?
Okay, just to explain to our viewers, both teams have equal times to respond to the social media questions. Team PNP, you go first.
The issue with the under-regulation of the funeral home sector first came to light during the advance of the COVID pandemic, when there was a lot of misinformation and a lack of information as to whether or not post-mortem there could be a transmission of the COVID virus. As a matter of fact, that process opened the potential, the possibility for any administration in office to have formalized and put in place structures and protocols that would have given ease to the professionals working in the industry and the family members of the deceased. What now needs to happen is for a recognition that this is a sector that is a critical part of the Jamaican social space, an adjunct, if you will, of public health. And the utter absence of any form of regulation, despite 9 years of unbroken representation by the Jamaica Labour Party as the head of government, is yet another indication of people who claim to know what they're doing, but still at the end of a 9th year, going into a 10th year, are having difficulties with a manifesto to explain not only what they've done in the past, but what they intend to do in the future. When PNP is in office, we can guarantee to the public that those regulations will be in place.
Okay, Team JLP, your response?
The issue with the lack of regulation in the funeral home sector came to public attention in 2014 when the funeral homes with contracts with the government for paupers' burials were not being paid. That is when the issue came to mind, or rather came to public attention. The reality is the sector is indeed lacking sufficient regulation. However, we have moved forward to bring the Ministry of National Security and indeed the Ministry of Health to form a working group to address this very issue. And there are many elements to it. One such element is the fact that the industry was operating without a proper public autopsy suite. This government, under Horace Chang's leadership at the Ministry of National Security, built the first public autopsy suite at a cost of $700 million, clearing one element that creates a significant backlog in this area. But lest we forget, the PNP has no credibility in the management of the health sector. Under Fenton Ferguson, every single Jamaican watching this debate tonight suffered the effects of Chick V. We suffered the effects of his failure to deal with vector management. Lest we forget that the then leader of the JMDA, your current spokesperson of the ministry related to health, said it was the worst management he had seen. He said doctors were using garbage bags. So people died because of the PNP's failure. Lest we forget.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samuda. It's now time for another break.
The People's National Party, Damien, will ensure that every decision we make has the people at the center. To start that off, we will, take a look at the health center. The Jamaica Labour Party will have you believe that they're serious about health. Tell that to a mother who've lost her child at the hospital. Tell that to patients who go to the hospital and can't find water in our restrooms. And you're serious about hospitals? You must be joking. The People's National Party will, 1, prioritize our health service. The second thing that we will do is to ensure that education, that there's access to education for all our children. We will do this through the provision, Damien, of 1 meal per day for each child. But we'll also make sure that transportation, which is one of the major issues preventing our children from going to school, is dealt with. And when we're talking about transportation, we're not talking about some 10-hour bus. We're talking about transportation that is effective, reliable, and can transport our children in peace, where parents can feel comfortable.
Additionally, Sophia, we will immediately give the First in the Family Scholarship to those persons that are in school currently at the university, as long as they're the first in the family. Also, we will ensure that ownership improves by making sure that squatting communities are reviewed under the POSHA program and open all the home ownership plans to our persons through rent to own.
Thank you so much. JLP, your 45-second rebuttal.
That convoluted response will require a supplementary estimate being tabled in the House of Representatives for a budgetary contemplation. The PNP does not have a structured set of policies ready for Jamaica, which is why they're not ready for government. The Jamaica Labour Party, in its next term, will continue to pursue peace, productivity, and indeed prosperity. Ultimately, the Jamaican people are happy with our suite of achievements. You see, we have cut poverty. We have cut unemployment. We have grown the economy. We have invested in infrastructure. And that is why the Jamaica Labour Party will indeed be returned to government.
Thank you, Mr. Samuda. Romardo has the next question, and it will be directed to Team JLP.
Roughly 10,000 students graduate annually from Jamaica's top 4 universities. Majority are young professionals. They were taught to go to school, get subjects, go to university, and then get a job. Many follow those instructions and end up repaying student loans for years, struggling to save money. With another term, what will you do to ensure in your first year that more educated youth can have a taste of prosperity?
The Jamaica Labour Party believes in our young people, and this is why we've already reduced interest rates at Student Loan Bureau. We've removed the requirement for guarantors, again taking away the barriers. And in our next term, we'll not only institute the new policy wherein students can have access to a loan which covers not only tuition, but accommodation, books, laptops, and food, living expenses. More importantly, of course, as we touch on the issue of debt, we know that our young people sometimes get thrown a curveball by life. That's why the Jamaica Labour Party is not only going to expand the moratorium which already exists, but we will institute the student loan debt reset. Under that policy, we will be waiving for all delinquent accounts 100% of penalties, 100% of interest, 100% of insurance charges, and 50% of interest arrears, ensuring a fresh start for those who just have had life take a wrong turn. For those who are in good standing, they'll be rewarded for their responsibility and, of course, encouraged to continue in their good efforts. And they will get a credit to their account of $100,000 per account in good standing. Those who, of course, are at the cusp of closing out their accounts, we will pay up to the amount required to close. This is us not talking, but acting.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kamina Johnson-Smith, PNP, your 45-second rebuttal.
The People's National Party will ensure that our young people not just dream, but have a chance of being the best they can be. So what are we going to do? One, we're going to make sure that there is $1 billion available so that they can get $500,000 towards their deposit. Secondly, what we are going to do is to have what we call a forgiveness, a graduated forgiveness of students' loan. So for every year that you work in the public service, your students' loan payment will be discounted. And we understand that sometimes you leave university and you simply just can't get a job. The present system says you must still pay your students' loan. We are saying no, an end to that.
Thank you so much. We go to social media, who has a question which will be answered first by Team JLP and then Team PNP. A reminder that both teams have the same amount of time to respond to that question. Amoy?
Thanks, Janella. This question comes from Kimmy on Instagram. There's been criticism of the government's 300% wage increase and delayed salary increase to civil servants. If selected to form the next government, how do you plan on making civil servants' salaries equally as attractive?
The Jamaica Labour Party has been responsible for the largest increase to public sector wages in the history of independent Jamaica. Do we want to be able to pay more? Absolutely. And we're committed to ensuring that we work with all stakeholders to ensure fiscal stability, to ensure the health of the economy, so all workers can be paid fairly without destabilizing the economy. We certainly are committed to engaging in fora, including the Partnership for Prosperity, as well as the negotiating mechanisms which are currently at play. We understand the concerns of cost of living, which concern each and every family, and we are committed to always doing our best within the affordability of our economy to do the best by our public servants.
No, so let's forget. When the salaries for parliamentarians were announced, the opposition spokesperson on finance got up and said he had no objection, only to cut off at the knees by the leader of the opposition the next day. It's not the first time the leader of opposition has cut off one of his spokespersons at the knees. He has cut off Senator Crawford at the knees when he proposed an additional 2 hours for schools and an additional tax to fund education. This is a common pattern with them. But the opposition will not roll back parliamentary salaries because they support it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samuda. Thank you so much, Mr. Samuda. Team PNP, your response.
I will answer Mr. Samuda on the platform, but today I'm focusing on the people. Let us look at what happened with our teachers. The government is currently ranked by the Prime Minister and the ministers as the highest in the Caribbean. Our teachers are ranked 6th or 7th in the Caribbean. Under the People's National Party, when we did our restructuring, the teachers were placed at 80% of market. Under the JLP, when they did their restructuring, the teachers are now propped at 50% of market. Additionally, the teachers were bamboozled into believing that their allowances would have been considered. But the JLP removed all the teachers' allowances and gave them a simple raise, in some cases of 12%, while they took 300%. What is evident from how it was handled is that the JLP is not a party of equity. They didn't treat all persons in the same. And as their former Minister of Finance suggested, that if it was to keep the best, they would have to raise their salaries. No wonder we're seeing so many teachers leaving our classroom because of the inefficient treatment from the Jamaica Labour Party. Teachers, nurses, and the public sector will know that they have a listening ear and a reasonable negotiator whenever we get into power. And one thing we can guarantee is that we don't believe they're worth zero, as the Jamaica Labour Party has suggested. 0% raise suggests that the teachers are worth nothing. The police are doing a wonderful job, the teachers are doing an excellent job, the nurses are doing a wonderful job, and we will ensure equity in treatment as we treat ourselves.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford. We're going to take another question from social media. Amoy?
This one is from Joel. Many Jamaicans are concerned about the limited access to beaches and the costs that apply to them. What measures will you put in place to ensure that Jamaicans have greater access to their beaches?
Team PNP, you get to respond to this question first.
Over the last 9 years, there have been countless situations, Miami Bay Beach, Bob Marley Beach, where Jamaicans have been denied the right of access to beaches. For us in the People's National Party, right access to beach is not an option, it is a right. And because of that, we will ensure that all Jamaicans have access to our beaches. We have done it before. In our last administration, we spent over $12 billion rehabilitating Winifred Beach, Prairie Beach. We've done it already, we're going to do it again. So what are we going to do now? We are going to ensure that the provisions in the Beach Access Act come to life. And where the amendment needs to be made, we're going to do that. What we're going to do as well is going to ensure that we work with all our tourism partners, all our private investors, so they understand that access to beach is a right for all Jamaicans. Thirdly, what we will do is to ensure that we rehabilitate beaches so that persons, when they come to beach, whether they're fishermen or they come for relaxation, that they can do it in dignity. Because for the People's National Party, access to our beaches is not just something you do. It is a matter of justice, and it is a right. And we commit that we will have access to beaches.
Thank you so much. Team JLP, your response?
The people of St. James know that all that was just said is a farce. When the People's National Party took away Cornwall Beach from the people of St. James, they did so without a care in the world. It is this administration that built the Harmony Beach Park over Dump Up Beach to give the people of St. James back beach access. It is this administration that will genuinely renovate the Prairie Beach in St. Ann. I'm not sure what was referred to as a renovation because that's a joke. It is this administration that will ensure that the Padgy Beach and indeed the Boston Bay Beach in Portland will be returned to the people of Jamaica. There isn't a Beach Access Act, as was mentioned, but there is the Beach Control Act. This administration will indeed, at the first sitting of the new Parliament, table the beach access policy, which will guarantee windows to the sea being maintained, corridors to the sea being a facet of development approvals, as we have recently done through NEPA with hotel approvals in Trelawney and in the Grill, where there are corridors built by the hotels to facilitate access for citizens. You see, our policy is important, but beach access cannot just be words. It has to be investment in beaches like the Harmony Beach Park. It has to be corridors to the sea, as we have indeed insisted upon through our approval process, through NEPA, in Trelawney, in the Grill, and more to come.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samuda. Thank you so much. We will now take a short break. Welcome back to the Social Issues Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. We invite Romardo Lyons to start this final segment with a question for Team JLP.
A digital Jamaica where technology is woven into the fabric of business and everyday activities. That's what you promised in your 2020 manifesto. But today, there are residents in Swamp Road, St. Thomas, putting phones in trees to make calls and to get reception. Why are so many Jamaicans in rural parishes still behind technologically?
That's an excellent question. Much progress has been made in respect of digital transformation. The National Broadband Initiative has connected over 700 government institutions across the country and has also been seeking to connect our police stations, our courthouses, our schools, and other institutions as a matter of priority as the base. We've also been seeking to encourage competition in the environment, in this sector, to ensure greater investment and greater rollout of fiber optics, of satellite technology, as well as Wi-Fi internet connections. The Jamaica Labour Party believes in technology facilitating business. It's why we ensure that now you can pay your taxes online, you can apply for your e-motor vehicle registration certificate, and in a new administration we will do even more. We will ensure that there is the task force to ensure efficiency and innovation, not only in the public sector but beyond. We will not only set up the task force, but we will allow a portal for private citizens to make suggestions with incentives and prizes to ensure that they feel a part of the process where they see that systems can be improved. The Jamaica Labour Party has already built efficiencies that have helped this economy to grow, that have helped with youth and regular unemployment, and we will do more.
Thank you so much, Team JLP, Team PNP, your 45-second rebuttal.
First, you keep mentioning about policies to make the economy grow, and after 9 years, you're still growing at under 1% per annum. The question mentioned difficulties of persons in rural Jamaica having access to telecommunications services, perhaps because you said from St. Thomas to Hanover. What is your fundamental problem with Westmoreland and the other parishes why you think that only St. Thomas to Hanover needs quality access to broadband? But you know, the greater tragedy is that you're talking about task force for what you are going to do in the next administration. We are waiting on the task force for why you didn't get it done in the last 9 years.
Thank you so much, Mr. Price. Romardo has indicated that he would like to use one of his follow-up questions. Romardo, just a reminder to both teams, you have 45 seconds to respond. Team JLP, you first. Romardo.
Your government has repeatedly said that education is a priority. Now, the technological issue in the rural parishes aren't just for residents. Schools are also affected. Just this year, a smart lab was opened in St. Aloysius Primary School on Duke Street in Kingston. When will schools in rural parishes start to feel included in this technological push?
They should feel it very soon. As a matter of fact, they'll feel it in this new school year. Procurement is already underway. We not only have had new contracts engaged with contractors to roll out more connections, but we are also investing in equipment, which is already in procurement, to ensure that our labs are equipped in rural schools as well as in urban schools. We believe fundamentally in ensuring that regardless of where you live in Jamaica, you must have access to the best education, and you will have it in the next administration. As a matter of fact, starting in this new school year.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. Team PNP, your 45-second rebuttal.
The JLP is certainly an enemy of the truth. Indeed, we have heard them suggest that 200,000 laptops were purchased. That would indicate 2-to-1 ratio, meaning for every 2 children, 1 should have a laptop. I'm asking those watching today, have your child received a laptop? Have you seen anyone receive such a laptop? Indeed, whoever is responsible for purchasing these missing laptops will have to answer under the People's National Party, because we have not seen those laptops. We will ensure that the gadgets are in place, but as we've said before, we build out the last mile that many of the private sector believe is not profitable to build out, so that the persons can get access to internet wherever they are. We will use that technology also for the small schools.
Thank
you,
Mr. Crawford.
Usage.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford. Natalie has the next question, and it goes to Team PNP.
We are in the hurricane season, and each season the authorities face a challenge persuading residents to evacuate some areas when the island is under threat. What strategies would you implement to ensure compliance?
Part of the reason why residents don't want to evacuate is that the poor level of communication and education prior to a storm causes them to be caught unaware. Let's take, for example, this instant year, 2025. All across media, we have heard advertisements from the Office of the Prime Minister with sections of budget presentations, and we are midway the Atlantic hurricane season, and not once has ODPEM been given the resources that OPM has for its parallel adjacent political campaign under the guise of public education. The second reason why residents do not want to evacuate is because they are realistically concerned that when they evacuate, the spaces that they are taken to will be substandard. In the next PNP administration, we will build out a series of evacuation centers that will be properly fitted with adequate water for on-site storage, as well as food and access to health, access to other emergency services, so that families feel more safe in bringing their elderly relatives into a space where they are certain that the services and the quality of standard will be there when they evacuate.
Thank you so much. Team JLP, your 45-second rebuttal.
It is clear to us on Team JLP that Raymond is fluent in misdirection, misinformation, and clearly not paying attention to the news of the day. It is the JLP that would have just completed and launched its own Doppler radar, meaning we're no longer depending on foreign sources for our weather forecasting needs. It means this government, the next administration under Andrew Michael Holness, will have accurate information on time and be able to communicate it so to you at home. We're also working with the United Nations CDF program to build modern and safe shelters for you at home, so you can trust the information and trust where you're going to go and be safe during the hurricane season.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. We go to Amoy now, who has a question from social media. Amoy?
All right, so this question comes from Tayana on Instagram. She says, Jamaica's hospitals are overcrowded and under-resourced. Can you explain how your party, if elected to government, will fix this without repeating the delays and bottlenecks of past administrations?
Okay, thank you so much, Amoy. Team PNP, you can answer this question first, to be followed by Team JLP.
So this is a social issues debate, and health is a primary social issue. If you look across to the opposite, the campaign chairman from that party, who has been the Minister of Health for 9 years, must have suspected that members of the public would want to drill down, shall I say, into why the health sector is so poorly managed, why your relatives at home, when you go to the hospital, can't get a bed, why you have to take the prescription from the nurse beside your relative's bed and go into the private pharmacy sector to purchase basic medication, why you have relatives sitting in wheelchairs or in the driveways and the parking lots in the cars that you took them to the hospital with and still can't get triage, even basic assessment as to the extent of their suffering. It's no wonder, Dr. Tufton, you're not here today. You have chosen to go and hide behind marketing strategies to support, what's her name again? The the Minister of Finance and the Public Services. The People's National Party, Matthew, understands health. We are the ones that modernize the hospitals on the budget and in time. Your reference to Chick V is old and dated. Look at your 9 years and speak to those.
Thank you so much, Team PNP. Team JLP, your response to the question?
Thank you, Tiana. It's a really important question because I know that we have not reached every community and we have not reached every hospital yet. But the Jamaica Labour Party is undertaking the most ambitious and, in fact, will be the most effective reconstruction and construction of hospital infrastructure in Jamaica in decades. The Western Child Hospital is under construction, close to completion. The rebuild of Cornwall is also almost completed. We're making sure that we focus also on primary health care, making sure that more health centers are renovated and brought closer to you so you don't actually have to go to the hospital. We're adding more doctors and nurses in those healthcare centers, more equipment so that better care can be had closer to you. We're adding more healthcare centers with expanded hours to allow working people to go to the health center after working hours. These are things that we're doing in addition to more operating theaters which are already programmed for next year, for next term, including a new KPH.
Importantly, we've also increased access to medicines under NHF. And we've increased access for our senior citizens through NI Gold and JDIP. Under the Jamaica Labour Party, we have taken a comprehensive approach to health infrastructure.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. We have another social media question. Mike?
This one is from Matthew Williams. With key parts of the Data Protection Act still not in force and several major data breaches reported this year, many Jamaicans feel their personal information is not adequately protected. How will your government address this growing privacy crisis and rebuild public trust in the protection of citizens' data?
Team JLP, you get to answer this one first.
Data protection is critical as we continue to build out more and more digital systems to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in the pursuit of business, growth, and prosperity. And this is why we have been paying attention to ensuring that implementation of the Act is phased and sensitive to the various stakeholders, ensuring that it's effective when each stage is put in place. We have done more to protect your data and will do more. As we recognize that AI is also being used more, we will ensure that there is an AI blueprint and roadmap, which of course is going to be built out of the very first task force on AI in the Caribbean, which was already established under this administration. We'll also ensure that there is new legislation to protect every Jamaican's face, voice, and image from the type of misinformation and negative campaigns that are run by parties like the PNP.
The Data Protection Act was indeed passed by the Jamaica Labour Party. And we're proud that it was passed, and we're happy that the Data Commissioner is now in place to speed up implementation. However, data requires data accuracy. It should be known for all Jamaicans watching that it is this government that gave the highest increase to civil servants. It is this government that insisted that there would be no more wage freezes for teachers, as was commonplace under the People's National Party.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. Team PNP, your response to the question?
The Jamaica Labour Party does not believe in privacy. It was one of their own ministers that says nothing is private. Do you remember? Because I certainly do. But not only that, when one considers the NIDS Act, the National Identification Act, the People's National Party, representing the people of Jamaica, had to take the Jamaica Labour Party to court to protect privacy rights. So the Jamaica Labour Party simply cannot come to you tonight to tell you that they're serious about privacy. Simply not true. The People's National Party, we value your privacy. And it is for that reason why we will train a cadre of data protection experts to work with different sectors so they understand what is in the law, they understand what is to be done, and how they can balance privacy rights. In fact, this will also create a new sector in Jamaica. Damien, don't you agree?
I definitely do agree, Sophia. But also we should remind the public that it was this Prime Minister that suggested that they can track persons who say certain things on social media. It is also this Prime Minister that has proven himself to be highly vindictive and have seen arrest of individuals who have criticized him in any way at any given time. It is also that government that stole sand from the beaches. So let us talk about what that government has done.
Thank you so much, Team PNP. So, viewers, we're doing things a little different this evening. We now invite Team PNP to ask a question of Team JLP.
In any decent democracy, where a leader has not been certified by the Integrity Commission, where the leader has been a part of Ponzi schemes and benefited from them, where the leader among members of his cabinet or his party are said to be part of an illicit aid for illegal enrichment, those persons could not be on the ballot. Therefore, why should Jamaica be any different from such decent democracies?
The PNP, we understand, has no answer to the plans, the programs, and the achievements of the Jamaica Labour Party. They see their only path to Jamaica House by trying to destroy the reputation of the Prime Minister of Jamaica and others. The Jamaica Labour Party has been the party that has done more for the integrity and anti-corruption framework in this country than any other administration. It is under the PNP that every day, every week, you woke up to a new scandal: light bulb, Sweetwater, NSWMA, Manchester Parish Council, Hanover, KSAMC, you name it, Crook and Anchor. It is under the PNP that Jamaica had the lowest scores under the Corruption Perception Index, and it is under the Jamaica Labour Party that Jamaica has had the highest. Why? Because the independent international experts actually look at the facts and not the steady drumbeat of PNP misinformation and weaponization of processes. There is no report that has found any finding of guilt or illegality on the part of the Prime Minister. There is no finding against the Prime Minister, and the PNP needs to stop telling the lie of 28 bank accounts. It is simply not true.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. Team PNP, your 45-second rebuttal.
It's odd that you say that's not true. Dennis Strong said that not only were it true, that it's inconsequential, that it's normal, he suggested, just as we now figure out he was rehearsing for the job for which the qualifications were waived so that he could get the job. Most of you look for a job. In that case, the job seemed to have looked for and found him. Now, the other things you say about doing the most for the integrity framework, that includes being the only Prime Minister to have taken the Integrity Commission to court, to quash a clause he once bragged that he included as chairman of cabinet. So the lies are on that side, aren't they?
Thank you so much, Team PNP. We now invite Team JLP to ask a question of Team PNP.
You know, lies are an affront to God. Yeah. And Reverend Albert would have taught you that.
Should have.
However, to be clear, the last time the People's National Party was at the wicket, they leveled $60 billion of new taxes on the backs of the Jamaican people. They have said that they will fix a tax to imported food items, which economists have said will increase the cost of living to the poor of Jamaica. Damian has said that he will fund education needs with an increase in GCT. The PNP have fixed a tax to parties. What should the Jamaican people expect by way of taxation from the next People's National Party administration 10, 20 years from now?
Can I go ahead?
Team PNP,
okay, thank
please
you.
answer the question.
Thank you. Well, the People's National Party had to take on a rebuilding project in the last Portia Simpson-Miller administration. Indeed, never before had the IMF stopped sending money to the Jamaica public or to the Jamaican society before, because it was run asunder by a government that included Andrew Holness and also Audley Shaw as the head of the Ministry of Finance. The People's National Party then, having rebuilt the economy, embarked upon a fiscal policy rules that we implemented to ensure that the country was on the right track. And having put the country on the right track, there's absolutely no need for the People's National Party to engage in further taxations. Indeed, what exists currently as the People's National Party proposals lie greatly within the context of the $360 billion available for governments to decide on what to do. But the $23 billion that we have identified is even less than the overrun for Cornwall Regional. We will therefore not have those overruns. The JLP continue to ask where we'll get the money. We will get the money from the same place that Market Me money came from. We'll get the same money from the same place that paying off Ramsharak from Petrojam came from. We will get the money from the same place that the buying of 200 used cars that we did not receive come from. We will get the money from the same budget that exists for the people.
Thank you so much, Team PNP. Team JLP, your rebuttal.
No doubt you will get this money from the same place that the failed Heroes Circle wall came from. But it is simply inaccurate to suggest that the international community cut off Jamaica. We were able to draw down on loans from the World Bank and the IDB right before we demitted office. But to be clear, it is this government that has cut debt to 62% of GDP. It is this government that has cut poverty rates to its lowest ever. It is this government that has ensured that the unemployment rate has gone to record lows of 3.2%. There is work to do. There is no doubt that there is improvements to be made in sectors. However, this government has the credibility to do it and will do so in the next term.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. Ladies and gentlemen, we now go to the closing statements, and based on the earlier coin toss decision, Team JLP will go first. And you can begin your 2 minutes.
My fellow Jamaicans, Jamaica is safer and stronger with the JLP. We reduced the murders by 43%, created 250,000 jobs, and we delivered the largest increase in the minimum wage in our history. We gave our doctors, nurses, teachers, police, and other public sector officers the largest pay increase, despite COVID, Hurricane Beryl, droughts, and global uncertainty. And remember, for 8 consecutive years, we did this without any burden of new taxes on you, the Jamaican people. Now we know that prices are rising globally. And that is why we're not just focused on increasing wages, but rather creating better conditions for growth. 33 quarters of growth, save and except for COVID. And still giving support to the most vulnerable. This is the JLP way. We care. Now compare. Under the PMP, wage freezes, heavy taxes, no relief of social pension for Miss Ivy, no relief for the vendor, the taxi operator, the housekeeper, just tax after tax after tax. And we heard Damien and Dayton already talking about taxes. So are you really willing to suffer the indignity of more taxes under the PMP? No way. With the Jamaica Labour Party, increased pension, better agriculture, better health infrastructure, enhanced education. This is our commitment. That's why we say to you, reject the reckless PMP promises. Choose performance. Choose Jamaica. Choose the JLP. The Jamaica Labour Party delivers, and we are committed to doing even more for you. On September 3, remember, put your X beside the bell.
Thank you so much, Team JLP. Team PNP, please go ahead with your closing statements.
One thing you could not have said is spell Jamaica, because we already know you can't. Jamaica has evolved to be one of the world's most recognized brands globally. Yet too many members of the Jamaican family live in standards and conditions that are, simply put, deplorable. On September 3, 2025, we all have an opportunity to put in office a government led by Mark Golding that places the people of the country and every member of the Jamaican family at the center of our policies and programs. In that Jamaica, Imagine that you have become unwell and you go to the hospital and there are beds, there are CAT scans, there are MRIs, there is medication and tools to save your lives available right there in the hospital. In that Jamaica, our nurses, teachers, firefighters, and police officers have not just better tools to do their jobs professionally, but also better conditions of work and better salaries with overtime benefits not taxed. In that Jamaica, whether you're on the corner as a youth, or you're working in a salon as a nail technician or a barber, or a deal with the eyelashes or tattoos, your Jamaica becomes not just the land of your birth, but the land in which your dreams can be achieved within your lifetimes. In the Jamaica led by Mark Golding, more affordable houses will be provided so that mothers and fathers can better care for and protect the members of their own family. On September 3, it's not just about a regular election. It is about creating a Jamaica that you at home can love and be a part of the national success that will be gained. Vote PNP on September 3.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much to both our teams. Now, in the good spirit of the debates, we now invite both teams to shake hands. And as they do so, I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first debate between Pernell Charles Jr. of the JLP, Kamina Johnson-Smith, and Matthew Samuda for Team JLP, and Damian Crawford, Sophia Fraser-Binns, and Raymond Price for the People's National Party. Join us again Tuesday, August 26th at 9 p.m. for the debate focusing on the economy, which for the first time will be a team debate between Team JLP and Team PNP. Audience, you can clap now. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks to our production and funding partners, and most of all, our viewers and listeners all across Jamaica and the diaspora. I'm Janella Precious. Good night.
Your vote is your voice. Make it count by understanding your ballot. The presiding officer will instruct you on how to cast your ballot. Listen carefully as they explain how to mark, fold, and return the ballot paper. You'll be told the number of candidates, names of candidates, and symbols representing each candidate. Mark an X beside the symbol of the candidate of your choice using the pencil provided. If you're unsure about any part of your ballot, ask a poll worker or visit the Electoral Commission of Jamaica's website at ecj.com.jm. Remember, understanding your ballot ensures your vote is counted exactly as you intend.
The law protects the secrecy of your ballot. On election day, you must make your ballot at a voting booth. Follow instructions and fold your ballot so that your mark isn't exposed. Be careful. If you expose your mark, your ballot will be declared spoiled. No one should ask you to expose your mark. This is a criminal offense. Your ballot can't be traced back to you once the counterfoil has been removed. Don't break the law, and don't let anyone influence you to do so. Remember, your vote is secret.
This is your reminder on how to mark your ballot. Easy and confidential. When you receive your ballot, take a moment to read it carefully. Mark your ballot clearly with an X beside the symbol of the candidate of your choice. Use only the pencil provided. make sure it is visible. Once you're done, fold the ballot as instructed and return it to the presiding officer. Your vote is your voice. Make your mark, make it count.
Hey Jamaica, are you ready to make a change? It's time to get involved and vote in the general elections. Your vote is your power. Remember, your voice matters. Speak up for what you believe in. Make your voice count. Go out and vote.
Welcome to the second of the political debates organized by the Jamaica Debates Commission and staged before a live studio audience. The debates are intended to assist in identifying, clarifying, and understanding the issues being presented in this.
The general elections.
This evening's debate focuses on the economy and is a team debate. Members of the panel of questioners are Andrea Chisholm, TVJ, Al Edwards, Our Today online financial magazine. Taking and presenting questions from the public is our social media editor, Amoy Harriet, CVM TV. I am your moderator, George Davis. As is customary, the audience is not to applaud the debaters, except for now, after we announce each team. For Team JLP, Dana Morris-Dixon. For Team PNP, Julian Robinson. For the JLP, Favour Williams. For the PNP, Keisha Anderson. And for the JLP, Chris Tufton. And for the PNP, Peter Bunting. The guidelines for tonight's debates have been previously agreed and are posted on the Debate Commission's website at www.jamaicadebatescommission.com. The guidelines include questions being no longer than 30 seconds and each team being allowed 90 seconds to respond to each question, and rebuttals are limited to 45 seconds. The questions posed in tonight's debate will come from two sources. The first source is you, the public. Send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. These will be checked, selected, and asked by our social media editor. The second source of questions is from our panel of journalists. Questions are not influenced by the Jamaica Debates Commission in any way. Providing sign language interpretation services this evening is Ms. Jane Litchmore, who teaches sign language at an international level and who previously provided sign language services on the former Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation and Television Jamaica, and who also represented the Jamaica Association for the Deaf. Now, based on a previous coin toss, the first question tonight comes from Andrea Chisholm, and it will be directed to Team PNP.
Promised to move the income tax threshold to $3.5 million starting April 2026 without any new taxes. How much will it cost? Is the timeline realistic? And which programs will be adjusted to accommodate the increase?
Thank you for that question, Andrew. We are committed to implementing the 3.5 threshold starting April 2026. This will be funded from revenue growth, which currently, based on the 1% growth, is projected to generate an additional revenue of $140 billion over a 3-year period. Additionally, we expect within the envelope that exists in the budget has 4 main components. You have debt servicing, you have salaries and wages, you have the capital budget, and then you have the programmatic budget. As a political party, we would have our own priorities, and we will look at the programmatic budget and make adjustments there. But we will begin implementing the 3.5 million threshold April 2026. However, there are other programs that we have announced that once we assume office, we will immediately, within the envelope that exists for programs, see how we will implement them. For example, ensuring that every needy child gets a hot meal per day. The first in family who goes to university to have a full scholarship. And also the $500,000 grant, which will be given to young first-time owners. So we are going to ensure that we do this in a responsible way fiscally without affecting the budget.
Thank you, Team PNP. Thank you, Team JLP, your rebuttal.
Lies, lies, lies. It cannot be done without imposing new taxes on the backs of Jamaicans. Your 3.5 is the biggest political scam since the history of Jamaica. It cannot be done. You were the people who said when we introduced the 1.5 that it couldn't be done. It would wreck the budget. How do you get from 1.5 to 3.5? It's 3.5 now, right? It used to be 2.3, 3.2, all over the place. Can't be done.
All right. Andrew would like to use the first of her two follow-up questions.
For Team PNP, I did not hear the cost of the proposed increase in the threshold, nor the programs to be readjusted to accommodate the increase.
The cost of the increase in the threshold would be $55 billion. Now, no political party implements every single thing in 1 year. So we are going to ensure that the implementation is done, which protects the fiscal sacrifices that have been made and will ensure that the adjustments are consistent with the budget. So it's $55 billion that this particular program will cost. And in terms of the readjustment of programs, that is something that we will do once we get into office. When we look, we have priorities which are different from the current government's priorities. And we will make those adjustments within the envelope of $360 billion, which currently exists for programs in the budget.
Thank you, Team PNP. Team JLP, you have a rebuttal, 45 seconds.
Well, first of all, I think we have to be careful about what we hear from that side, because they have been flip-flopping on the issue of income tax threshold and for some time. Their leader has said one thing, then he said he wasn't sure, then he said he wants to do another thing. The principle of increasing the threshold is something that is desirable. Let us be clear, because we did it. We were the ones who came with 1.5. We're moving now to 2.0. And indeed, we are the only government that have reduced taxes in several ways to benefit the Jamaican people. The challenge is the practicality of their solution. This is a one-week proposal, a proposal to win
Thank you,
votes,
Team JLP.
Thank
you, Team JLP. Al, you get the chance to pose the first question of the evening to Team JLP.
Hello, good evening. How do you do? On Sunday, the JLP promised to reduce income tax to 15% over a phased basis if it secures a third term in government. This is estimated to cost the country around $135 billion. Where will the money come from to accomplish this, considering there is a projected to be a $35 billion deficit in the budget, and given that many people work in the underground economy?
I'm not sure where that number came from. Our number, based on the technocrats who did it, put it at between $25 to $30 billion. That's our number. That is doable. We are the party that did the 1.5 in a responsible way. We are the party that moved the threshold from 1.5 to 1.7 to 1.8. Next year it'll be 1.9 and then 2.0. We know how to handle the tax affairs, the revenue affairs of the country, and we are going to move with this in a responsible way over time, ensuring that we continue to give back to Jamaicans. You've seen us do the reverse income tax. You've seen us do a number of initiatives, all with the goal of ensuring that the Jamaican people get back monies in their pockets so that they can provide more for themselves and their families.
This administration has been very much the administration that's pragmatic. We have always said to Jamaica what can be done, and then we have done it. We did it with 1.5, and we're doing it again with 2.0 and also our other proposal in terms of 15% income tax. We never say what we cannot do, unlike
Thank
our
you, Team
opposition.
JLP. Thank you. Team PNP, your rebuttal. 45 seconds.
I want to remind the country that the 1.5 that they boast about cost the country $31 billion in new taxes implemented by the Jamaica Labour Party. The Minister of Finance is saying her estimate is 25 to 30 billion. She's applying the same Pro Box maths that she said you can use $2,000 a month for buy a Pro Box. The most conservative estimate for their program to reduce the income tax rate is $68 billion. So where do you get your maths from? Tell the country, how will you finance it? Which programs will you cut? Where will the money come from?
Thank you, Team PNP. Social media has a question, Amoy.
Thank you, George. Well, the first social media question tonight comes from Makeda on Instagram. Jamaicans both at home and abroad work tirelessly to support their families and contribute to our economy. Yet high taxes and fees on barrels at the wharf, along with frustrating processes, make it difficult and costly for people sending goods home. If selected to serve, what specific and measurable actions will your party take to reduce these costs and simplify these processes?
Team PNP, 90 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We note the developments in the U.S. and other territories as it relates to remittances, and we're observing the situation. We also note that for Jamaicans going to pick up money at agencies, the cost may increase. And that's why we want to encourage the opening of accounts, and with reduced due diligence requirements for these types of accounts, we think more Jamaicans should exercise that option. I think also, though, we want to take a deeper look at the fact that we're so reliant on remittances. At least 20% of our GDP is based on remittances. We need to find a way, in the best interest of Jamaicans, to have them earn more. And that's why Team PNP is looking at options to have our economy grow. We're looking at options in agriculture with the Agricultural Development Fund of $2.5 billion, where we want to teach our farmers smarter and more efficient ways to go about farming. We're looking at options in logistics. Given our position, we're ideally placed to offer logistic and trade facilitation. We also want to look at our BPOs and increase the value of the services that are offered through our BPOs by upskilling our workforce and training our young people in heart, etc., to do these things which are the careers of the future and not to stick to the careers that now exist.
Team JLP, your 90 seconds, well, your 45, well, your rebuttal.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if we heard the same question. I heard a question that was about or Jamaicans having to clear barrels at the port. And that has been a concern for some of our Jamaicans who do rely on their families overseas to help them. And we, as a country, have always benefited from our diaspora. And that's why we've placed so much emphasis on our diaspora policy through our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That has been very important. And on that matter, we have focused very much on creating efficiencies at the port. And that's important because we understand that we have a larger vision of Jamaica of becoming a logistics hub. We know that this can happen. It is something that the PNP waxed quite well about, this logistics hub, but did nothing. We have been doing work to expand our port, to also improve efficiencies at the port. In addition to that, we have a new Customs Act. We didn't get to the Senate with it, but we took it through the House, which transforms a lot of the framework for our customs area. And so we are working. We understand the plight of our Jamaicans who depend on these. In terms of remittances, that's another area that's very, very important. And we have been doing a lot of our own lobbying in relation to remittances. We've not seen any fall off. We're very happy with our diaspora, and we'll continue to make it easy for our people to benefit.
Time. Thank you very much. We'll now take a short break and invite you to stay tuned. We now ask Andrea Chisholm to start this segment with a question for Team JLP.
The public sector wage bill consumes close to 50% of tax revenues. The Independent Fiscal Commission has recommended the reintroduction of a cap on public sector wages as a percentage of GDP. But in March, the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament was told the cap was not being considered. Why was the recommendation ignored?
For the public sector wages, I know when you look back in history, there used to be, it calculated as a percentage of GDP. With our current fiscal rules and our debt to GDP rule, those are the two kind of guardrails that we use on the budget to keep everything in line. If we do that, if we keep that focus on our debt to GDP and on our fiscal balance, then everything in the budget will align, and it would not be necessary, it has not been necessary to keep a cap on the wage bill that way as a percentage of GDP. And as a matter of fact, one time in our history it was done. When you look back, maybe it was only one time that that ratio was ever reached. So there's good faith and confidence in the fiscal balance rules and the debt to GDP in order to help us to keep everything in line in the budget.
Can I also quickly say that this government has done the boldest move to reform and restructure the public sector. First of all, we had 300 different salaries packages, 180 different allowances were consolidated into 16, and it has taken time. We need that time to sort that out.
Jamaica's tax burden at 29% of GDP is the highest in the region. Our middle class has been hollowed out by a generation of belt tightening. It is time that our nurses, our teachers, our police officers, our public servants get to enjoy some of the benefits of years of tight fiscal management. It can't always be that when it comes time for the people to benefit, we are talking about managing fiscal rules, etc. We will observe the fiscal rules, but we believe we must do a social transformation for the people.
Time, thank you very much. Question for Team PNP, Al.
The high interest rate FinSac era was devastating for the Jamaican economy. A World Bank debt management paper dated 21/12/2001 reads in part, the ensuing rapid growth of FinSac debt worsened as interest rates continued to rise, leading to a stock debt of $142 billion as of March 2001. That's about 43% of GDP. This added to an already large pre-crisis public debt burden of more than 100% of GDP, leading to an unsustainable debt path. That period also decimated a generation of local entrepreneurs, so much so that a generation later many are still reticent to invest in the productive sector. What guarantee can you give under your administration that Jamaica will never see history repeating itself, and how do you intend to honor that guarantee?
Well, what we have to ensure is that the agencies that have responsibility for managing and regulating the financial services sector are actually manned by individuals who are competent and professional. The Bank of Jamaica, the Financial Services Commission. Ensuring the BOJ now is an independent agency that has the responsibility for managing interest rates and primarily inflation. At the time when FinSac took place, the government intervened to ensure that all depositors got back their money. What we want to see is the FinSac report published. The country spent $150 million on a FinSac commission, and all now we can't get the report. We want the FinSac report out. And while you're at it, we will publish the SSL report, because we noticed that depositors have gotten $2. If them did have $100 and there's only $2 them get back. But the most honorable Prime Minister got all his money out of SSL before it collapsed. That is what justice means. We will publish the SSL report, and it is a failure on their part that after all these years, given the impact of FinSAC, that there is no report, no independent report. What we have seen is drips and drabs being leaked out by that side. So when we talk about FinSAC, let's get all the facts on the table and release the Kroll report from SSL.
Time up.
Interesting that that side can speak as if they're ignorant of FinSAC, when some on that very side were involved during the FinSAC period and benefited. Just recall the 40-40-40. You mentioned it. 40% of GDP to recover from FinSAC. 40,000 businesses lost their money. 40% being offered by merchant banks to make a profit. And DB&G made on average 40% return on their investments, which one of the principals sits across me right here. They cannot talk about fiscal discipline. They cannot talk about management and economy. They presided over the FinSAC era. They drove people in some instances to commit suicide based on news reports. They have no moral authority and certainly no economic management, and they are still there. The Jamaican people cannot trust them.
Thank you, time. Al, you wanted to use one of your two follow-up questions?
The first one, yes.
Proceed.
The JLP government has presided over macroeconomic stability. Public debt has come from over 140% of GDP in 2013 to 70% in fiscal year 24-25. Unemployment now stands at just 3.3%. According to Statin, as of July this year, Jamaica's annual headline inflation rate stood at 3.3%. The Bank of Jamaica says as of August 12, 2025, Jamaica's gross international reserves stood at US $6.2 billion. The World Bank, the IMF, the rating agencies all commend Jamaica for this economic performance. How will a PNP government build upon and improve this trajectory?
I think it's important to set context for the question that you have asked. When they left office in 2011, the country was on the precipice of economic collapse. When we got in 2012, we had to restore Jamaica's credibility. We had to establish EPOC. We strengthened and enhanced the fiscal rules. We legislated the debt to GDP ratio so that any government, PMP or JLP, had to pay down that debt. Portia Simpson Miller and Peter Phillips started that race. We passed the baton. We are the persons responsible for the fiscal responsibility that exists today, and we will continue that when we get into office again.
Time, thank you. The Team JLP, you have 45 seconds to rebut.
I am so glad that you named all of those improvements that we've had in our economy. When the PNP was in government, they took a wrecking ball to our economy, and that's a fact. When we took office 9 years ago, we saw high unemployment, we saw high debt, we saw high crime too, and we saw failing infrastructure. And this administration got to work, working on all of those areas. The PNP does not know how to be fiscally responsible. And we have seen that in our history time and time again. And so the data is there. The data shows the Jamaica Labour Party knows how to do it.
Time. Let's take a question from social media. Amoy?
Well, George, this question comes from Facebook. Nikisha is asking, many schools are without basic resources, and as such, some schools are asking parents to contribute certain resources, whether it be in cash or kind. Seeing that economically parents are struggling to pay school fees and meet other needs, how will your administration, if elected, resolve this issue so there will be an ease on parents' pockets?
Team JLP.
Thank you for that question, and we definitely understand the burden that a lot of our parents feel. And it is for that reason that we have focused quite a bit on how we can get our children to school. Let me give you some realities from going around to our schools, especially in rural areas. When I go to school on a Friday, classes are sometimes half empty. And when you ask our teachers why, they say money ran out. What keeps them at home? High transportation costs, and also the high cost of lunch. And that's what we have decided to focus on. The rural school bus system is precisely because of that. I had one mother in St. Thomas say to me, it costs her $1,200 a day to send one of her children to school. and that it is so expensive that she ends up having to choose which one goes to school sometimes. We cannot have a country like that. In addition to that, in terms of our meals, we have expanded meals to 5 days a week for those on path who need it the most. In addition to that, we're now going to be adding breakfast to our students in our schools that are the most underperforming. All of that on the backs of the hard work of Minister Williams and the Ministry of Finance team. We understand the costs, and we're working hard, including in providing more books in the public sector so that our parents can have less of a burden.
Time. Team PNP, your 90 seconds.
Chris, you're correct that DBNG was a very successful company. And it was a publicly listed company that our audited financial statements were open to the public. So everyone knows where Peter Bunting and Mark Golding got their wealth from. You and your Prime Minister cannot say the same. Now, in terms of our arrangements for public transportation, particularly rural school transportation, that school bus system was a political gimmick. We cannot be buying new trucks to transport garbage, and we're buying 15-year-old buses to transport our most precious cargo, our children. That was just an opportunity for somebody to eat a food. Let us be clear about that. It was totally unsuitable. In deep rural communities, we cannot afford parallel transportation systems, a school bus and a system for adults. So what we have proposed is a subsidy of $10,000 per month per child for those parents who need it, for those children who are unable to attend school 5 days a week. What we have proposed is a hot meal every day for those children who need it. That is real progress.
I'm surprised too, Peter, that the Minister of Education is speaking as if she didn't know all of this.
Time. Andrea, your question for Team JLP.
The requirement for a 12-year experience in law enforcement was removed from the January 2025 job advertisement for the position of Chief Technical Director of the Financial Investigations Division. Why was the law enforcement requirement removed?
I want to make it clear that on the job description for the head of the FID, there are a number of different qualifications that an applicant could have. There were at least 6 different skill sets that that applicant could have. When the whole process of going through recruiting was done outside of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and they went through a very public recruitment process. The job was advertised, interviewed. No one qualified to be accepted. Normally, in the course of advertising for jobs, if you go out once, if you go out twice, and you see that you're not getting the skill set, the particular skill set, and the job description allows you to be flexible, then obviously, as a responsible HR person looking to fill the position, then you would do that. That is what was done. There's nothing underhanded about it. It was all transparent. And we have a very competent person heading the FID currently, and I look forward to continue working with him.
Team PNP, your rebuttal.
This is not true. I know as a certain fact that senior police officers with investigative experience for many years, who have coordinated international investigations, who have headed the Intelligence Bureau, they applied for the job and they were turned down. The truth of the matter is, it was a set hand. Dennis Chung applied for the job when he said he saw nothing wrong with in the Integrity Commission report. There were clear red flags for money laundering, cash from undisclosed depositors deposited to the Prime Minister's personal account, 470 billion flowing through multiple accounts. That's called layering. These were clear red flags.
Time, thank you very much. Time. Al, your question for Team PNP.
A look at MSMEs. Many people looking to fund a business in Jamaica bemoan the strangulating red tape and lack of access to finance from lending institutions. In the new century, we're seeing the rise of new types of businesses, young people into digital technology, the creative and services sector. Harold Davis of Jamaica Business Development Corporation makes the point that access to finance has two sides of the coin, and that it's appropriateness of the financial product that is available. And when I say appropriateness, I speak of the product that is right for the particular industry or the particular stage of business of the entrepreneur. What will you do to address this and better help small businesses in Jamaica?
We wholeheartedly agree. As a matter of fact, as a former CEO of a financial institution in Jamaica, I can say it's a problem that we struggled with in the absence of government having adequate policy and facilities to make it happen. We will, as the next PNP administration, ensure that we revisit the loan processes for our MSMEs. We recognize that they're an important part of the engine of growth for the economy, and we recognize their struggles. We note that we would have to help them with some amount of business planning. We'd have to help them to get themselves ready to borrow. But it is a win-win situation. When they borrow, they are able to grow. When they grow, they're able to contribute to the economy, and we will be able to get tax revenues from them. So it's very important for us to have our MSMEs grow, and to also encourage young entrepreneurs in the economy to participate.
What we are going to do is remove income tax for MSMEs for the first 3 years. Why are we doing this? The reason MSMEs remain informal is because they don't want to pay tax. But remaining informal limits their growth because they can only get money from friends and families and a partner draw. So by removing the income tax for the first 3 years, they can formalize, they can grow, they can access bank, equity funding. That is what we are doing to grow the MSME sector.
Time, thank you. Thank you, Team JLP, your rebuttal.
PNP talks a good talk, but in reality, that's not the fact. 2015, 8,000 companies were registered with the Company Office. 2024, 23,000 companies, twice that number. The fact is, Jamaicans are more energized to form companies, to come out of the informal sector. DBJ, over that 8-year period, loaned almost $70 billion US, 117 billion of investments, 86,000 applicants. That is why our economy has started to turn around. And I want to say to Peter that he must be careful about innuendos, hearsays, and propaganda. First of all, your FinSac era, I don't know how you're comfortable with it. The Contractor General at the time accused you of sweetheart dealings, you and your partners. You cannot now say that you earn your money in a way that is legitimate and above board.
Time. Amoy has a question from social media.
This question is from TikTok. The user who sent in this question is Kamar Jackson. Under the current administration, brain drain has become an increasingly pressing issue, negatively impacting our economy. Considering the various causes of this trend, such as limited employment opportunities, inadequate compensation, and governance concerns, what specific strategies and reforms would your government implement to address the key drivers of this problem and ensure the retention of skilled professionals?
Team JLP.
Thank you very much for that question, Cameron Jackson. That area of brain drain has been an issue for a long time. I saw it. I left university in 2001, and most of my classmates left this country because they didn't feel there was an opportunity. And it's for that reason why we focused a lot of our policies, and if you look in our manifesto, there's a huge section for young people, because we believe in a few things. We believe that every young person, as they've told us, wants to own a home one day. And that's why we have allocated 15% of every NHT house built to our young people who are under 35. We're also increasing employment. 280,000 more young people have been brought into the labor force. We're providing jobs, and we're looking for higher paying ones through the work that we're doing in terms of training our people. 500,000 young people have been trained since 2020 at Heart, and we're going to continue doing that.
In addition to that, let me remind Jamaica that it is this government that has brought unemployment to its lowest level ever. In fact, the participation rate in the job market is 68%, the highest it has ever been. Under their watch, people lost jobs. They borrowed and spent, or tax and spent. Under this government, no new taxes and jobs have been created. This is a more responsible government, and the future of young people are brighter with the JLP.
Thank you. Team PNP, your 90 seconds to answer the question.
Raising the tax threshold to 3.5 million, the tax-free threshold to 3.5 million, is one of the most fundamental and revolutionary things we can do to retain our best and brightest. As I said, this is a manifesto that we've put forward, not just about a campaign for the next election. This is about the next generation. We want to ensure that our teachers, our nurses, our police officers can provide for their families in the way they should. We want to rebuild the working class and the middle class. We want to ensure that buying a house, buying a car, aspiring to improve, to lift your whole generation is not merely a dream. So yes, what we have proposed is radical. It's transformational. It's going to require a shaking up and a reordering of all the priorities of government. That's not accidental. We're working for a social revolution. People are not going to elect a new government to do the same thing that the outgoing one is elected to do.
When I hear them speak, I wonder which young people they're speaking about. When I speak to young people, they tell me they have no hope of owning a home. With the NHT limit being raised to 9 million, the problem is that the houses cost 40 million. There's no hope.
Time, Mr. Sanderson, time. We now take a short break and invite you to stay tuned. Welcome back to the Economy Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. We'll now ask Andrea to start this segment with a question for Team PNP.
The PNP has described the 0% in year one as an insult to public sector workers. The party says they have looked at the budget and fiscal policy paper and will do better for the public sector workers if elected. What percentage increase would a PNP administration propose?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, we are going to treat public sector workers with respect and dignity. I won't talk to the JTA president like the Minister of Education and say him performing at his conference. That is disrespect. Disrespect is when you need to get a meeting, you have to get restive and threaten strike action. The fiscal policy paper has, in its first year, 9%. In the second year, 6%. In the third year, 6%. They have offered 0. That is not an offer. We will do better. But by lifting the income tax threshold to 3.5 million, we are easing the pressure. We easing the pressure on our nurses. We easing the pressure on our policemen. We easing the pressure so that more money will be in their pockets. They have a history of dealing with civil servants with disrespect. You right now have 2 sets of civil servants in the same office doing the same thing and earning different salaries. A whole set of anomalies that arose from the public sector compensation review. They haven't addressed it. There's supposed to be a meeting tomorrow with the JCTU and you cancel it. They are the ones who treat them with disrespect. We have a history of working with our public sector in the interest of this country, and we will continue to do so. So when we come into office, it will be better than 0% because there is money in the budget to provide better for public servants.
Team JLP, your rebuttal.
This is a government that has given the public sector the largest wage increase in the history of Jamaica. What did the public sector know under the PNP? wage freeze after wage freeze after wage freeze. We are committed to continue negotiating with our unions. Negotiation is a process. We still remain at the table. Our Prime Minister has indicated that we will get to a point that is satisfactory for the public sector workers and for Jamaica as a whole. We remain committed to the public sector workers.
Time, Mrs. Williams, time. Thank you. Al, your question to Team JLP.
In fiscal year 2013-14, the then Minister of Finance, Peter Phillips, balanced the budget. Minister Phillips met the targets for the primary surplus and the budget deficit. The JLP said at the time, including you, Minister Williams, that the then PNP government was preoccupied with passing the IMF test and not the people's test. Can it be said of this JLP administration that it is preoccupied with reducing the debt instead of growing the economy and passing the people's test?
We are passing the people's tests. If you look at what we have done, what we have achieved, all that we have achieved, we have done it for the people of Jamaica. Look at roads, look at new jobs created, look at the level of inflation, look at the number of houses that are being built. We are going gangbusters. Every day we wake up, it is to grow the economy. During our administration, we have grown the economy. We have had 33 quarters of growth, interrupted only by COVID and by Hurricane Beryl. We wake up every day to ensure that this economy expands so that there are opportunities for our men and women in the society.
When we speak of the people's test, all these nice economic jargon about GDP and debt to GDP ratio and all of that don't mean anything to the ordinary person, to most of our Jamaicans. What they think about is how is everything that we're doing affecting the quality of their life. We're giving more water. 350,000 more people have water, 280,000 more jobs created. We are improving the quality of life of our people.
Team PNP, your rebuttal.
What I want to ask every Jamaican, is your life better? Can you afford the same things you used to be able to afford? Do you have to choose between paying your utilities, buying food, or buying medication? Is your life better?
The lived reality, notwithstanding the macroeconomic numbers of most Jamaicans, is a struggle to put food on the table. When you go to the supermarket or the corner shop, you pick up things and you have to put it back down. If you suffer the misfortune of going to a hospital, you have to sit down on one chair for 2 or 3 days. And what we have seen at Cornwall Regional, it moved from 1.5 billion to 25 billion. That is the waste that we will eliminate so we can put money back in the hands of the Jamaican people.
Thank you very much. Time. Al would like to use this second and final follow-up question. Al.
According to the World Bank, the Jamaican economy average annual growth over the last decade is around 0.8%. Why is this? And what will you do to get it to around 5%?
Thanks for that question. Thanks for that question on growth. There have been many impediments to growth, and we have seen that documented in many places. If we look at the impediments, they include training, and we're doing that, 500,000 trained. Another impediment to growth is the high electricity cost, and we have taken the decision to not continue on that bad JPS contract because we know we need to have lower electricity costs. In addition to that, infrastructure is another impediment to growth, and that's why we've spent so much money on fixing our roads, providing internet access across this country, and improving our investments in technology. We understand that in order to bring the growth rate up, we are going to have to do these things.
You have 45 seconds.
What they haven't spoken about is how corruption has impacted that growth. How our foreign direct investment has moved from 900 million in 2015 to 300 million today. That's 11 of them are under investigation for illicit enrichment. I, Julian J. Robinson, can categorically state, I am not under investigation. Can the three of you say that? We need growth. We understand the assignment now. We have consolidated our economy. We have to improve the outcomes in education, which have been poor. You talk about energy. It took you 8 years to put out a request for proposal for renewables. Why? Because of the corruption at the Ministry of Education, where you see 4 ministers over 8 years.
Time. Thank you. Social media, Amoy.
All right, so we're on TikTok, and I'm seeing a question here from Joe. Policies often target low-income earners, while high-income earners are generally believed to be able to manage on their own. What in your plans directly supports middle-income Jamaicans who are caught in the squeeze?
Team PNP.
So, the contrast between the JLP's approach of reducing the income tax rate for everyone versus the PNP's approach of lifting the threshold is a prime example of that. The cabinet ministers and the prime ministers will benefit the most from the reduction in the rate of income tax. Police officers, nurses, doctors, security guards, public servants, those who are at the rank and file of the police level, everyone who earns under 3.5 million will be the major beneficiaries of our program. That is what differentiates our approach from theirs. They talk about prosperity. It's prosperity for them and their cronies. When we talk about putting people at the center of our policies and programs, it's because we want to lift everyone. We want to lift those at the bottom. We want to build out the middle class. We want education to become a bridge from one generation to another to move them to another level in society.
And we will continue to lift the standards of the majority of the Jamaican people. The income tax threshold, we're going to remove tax on overtime so that our security guards, our nurses will get a break and you put more money in their pockets.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Team JLP.
The PNP does not understand how the economy works. First of all, they talk about our performance. Our performance we're very proud of. We created the lowest poverty rate in the country on record. We created more jobs with more participation in the economy on record. And while we're doing that, we are building out new industries in digital technology, in our port facilities, for logistics hub, as well as maintaining and building on the traditional industries that are there. Most persons in Jamaica today, young persons who have a skill, can find a job. That was not the case under the People's National Party. And I want to just come back to this issue of corruption, because they seem to think that they can speak about things in mid-air without any evidence, innuendos and suppositions, as if people are going to accept that. What the Jamaican people want is who is going to look after them, who will bring down crime. Peter Bunting depended on divine intervention without work. In fact, he is on record, I believe, as the only Minister of National Security who was unable to secure himself. And I am happy he's okay from that unfortunate incident in Portland. But it speaks to confidence in their policy to reduce crime. This government has reduced crime by the lowest over 30 years. And this is what Jamaicans want. They felt unsafe under the PNP. They feel a lot safer under the Jamaica Labour Party.
Mr. Tufton, thank you. Time. We now take a short break and invite
Welcome
back to the economy debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. We now ask Andrea to start the final segment, with a question for Team JLP.
The central bank has cut its policy interest rate from 7% in July 2024 to 5.75% in August 2025. The regulator has been pleading with the banks, the commercial banks, to further reduce lending rates, but it's not happening fast enough. What will your administration do to further pressure banks to cut their lending rates?
So we are seeing interest rates come down, and we're getting early signs that the rates to borrowers is also coming down. Just recently, I was speaking to the DBJ. You know that the DBJ on-lends to the banks to lend to our MSMEs, and DBJ reported that they are seeing lower rates in the marketplace from banks. As the Bank of Jamaica bring rates down, which it will, we fully expect that our borrowers are going to begin to see lower rates in the marketplace on the various loans.
I think that the reforms that are taking place within the banking sector, the independent central bank, which has to drive this issue, that's why we supported the independence of the central bank, and competition. What we have been working on, but I do agree we need to work on it more, and this is for the next administration, is to make it easier for someone to move their account from one bank to the next. We believe ultimately in the market, within reason, of course, with a regulatory framework, not like them who allowed an attempt at liberalization that drove us into FinSA.
Thank you. Team PNP, your rebuttal.
Before the break, Chris had the gall of claiming success with crime. The fact is that more Jamaicans have been murdered under this JLP administration, almost 13,000 murdered in their 2 terms than in any other 2 terms in the history of Jamaica. That is failure, not success. We commend the police for the job they've been doing this year in reducing it, but you can't take credit for that. That's despite your failed SOE policies.
What we will do to ensure that the banking sector is more competitive, we are going to ensure government deposits. There's a system to ensure that all banks participate in government deposits.
Thank you. Al, I invite you to pose a question to Team PNP.
The former CEO of Grace Kennedy, the late Don Webby, consistently called on Jamaica to reduce its food importation bill by half by 2030. Given that Jamaica spends around $1 billion a year on imported food, and according to the FAO, Jamaica's food imports account for approximately 21% of its total merchandise imports, what will your government be doing to reduce the food importation in a meaningful way?
Under the JLP administration, the imported food cost has doubled. It was $800 million US 10 years ago. It is now $1.6 billion. That 800 million US dollars, or about 150 billion Jamaican dollars, should be going into the pockets of the farmers of South Manchester, South St. Elizabeth, and farmers all over Jamaica. We have committed to forming an agricultural development fund. This is going to ensure that we inject new technology, new machinery into our farming communities. It's going to ensure that we put adequate post-harvest storage and processing facilities in place to reduce the 30% or more that's lost. We are going to ensure that funding is available for our farmers.
And we commit to the Jamaican people and to the farmers of Jamaica to reduce importation by 25% in our first term. We also commit to helping farmers access financing at more affordable rates and terms. We also commit to helping them with products such as insurance to ensure that when natural disasters hit, the impact to them for recovery is not as high.
Team JLP, your report.
First of all, there is a need to do more to develop our local industry for self-sufficiency, but also for export. The fact is, this government has done a lot. In fact, if you look at the last 8 years on domestic export has gone up by some 31%. What it means is that more local companies within a much friendlier environment are in fact producing and exporting. But it is a fact that we are importing more at the same time. That is simple. We have an economy that affords the capacity to demand more. We have a thriving tourism industry, and we have a consumer who is earning more. This will contribute to a greater demand. It's a process, but it's also a sign of success by this government.
Thank you. Andrea, I invite you to pose a question to Team JLP.
Major platforms such as Meta, Google, and TikTok are earning money and data from the Jamaican economy, but they are not paying taxes in Jamaica. What policy changes will your administration pursue to ensure that Jamaica directly collects taxes from these platforms?
So we recognize that those companies that you mentioned are not paying tax to the Jamaican government. We have our tax entities in conversation with these entities to ensure that the Jamaican people get their fair share of taxes from these companies. We sit on some of the international bodies that look at taxes across different countries to ensure that there's fairness in what's being done. And I know that we will pursue it vigorously to ensure that Jamaica is not left out as these companies thrive on our data.
What's important to also note is that a lot of our young people are using these platforms. I know recently I saw someone on TikTok selling some nice products that I thought about buying. So our young people are using these platforms very well, and they're creating content that is absolutely amazing. And so we have the tax side that the minister has said that we're looking at in a more multilateral kind of approach, as we tend to do as Jamaicans. But also, there are also other concerns too in relation to artificial intelligence. They're using a lot of our creative energy. They're using our music, they're using our cultural ideas, and those are going into AI programs, and that's something we have to look at.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Team PNP.
It's clear that there's no policy to deal with this. This is where we have to work with our CARICOM states to develop a common policy. Why? Because these are large multinationals. Their GDP would dwarf the entire Caribbean region. And so it requires some consensus among the region to ensure that you implement a policy which every country agrees to and that you can stand the test of time. We recognize the importance of our creatives. That's why we are establishing a $1 billion fund. Not like the film fund that has disbursed zero, but a $1 billion fund for creatives, for artists or singers or potters, the people who create content so they can build their businesses.
Thank you. Social media, Moy.
On social media platform X, Sean from Kingston says, free healthcare means little if hospitals don't have CT machines, x-rays, or even basic supplies. What short-term financial measures will you take within the first 2 years, if you win, to fix these shortages and ensure patients can actually access proper care?
Team PNP, you go first.
You know, I really wanted the Minister of Health to focus on these issues, but him seem more preoccupied with dealing with FinSAC and other people's business. Because if he spent more time dealing with Cornwall Regional, we wouldn't have a $25 billion overrun. If he spent more time dealing with the hospital sector, when people go there, they wouldn't have to sit on a wooden chair for 3 days. And when they have to do an MRI or CT scan, they have to pay $50,000 for go. And the same ambulance for take them have to pay for it too. And them can't get toilet paper in the hospital. Our health sector is failing despite the amount of money we have spent. It is the inefficiency of the Jamaica Labour Party why we are here. We are going to ensure the dignity of Jamaicans who have to traverse our public health system. They have been failed by this administration. And that is why we are committed to ensuring that monies which come into the coffers go for the benefit. So when we look on the drill and we drill down, it shouldn't cost $31 million for a $3 million drill. Because what does that do? When you go to the hospital, you have to pay now based on that wastage, that corruption, and that inefficiency. What can go so, Jamaica? How can you feel comfortable?
There are currently no CT scan or MRI services available at Mandeville Regional Hospital because the private providers have not been paid.
Team JLP.
Well, let me just start by saying I wasn't the one in 2015 who said we had to use garbage bags as aprons or cut a soap in two. That is their spokesperson of health who spoke about the crisis in the system. So we have come a long way, and we started from a very low base. It is incorrect to say we don't have CT scan, just to say to your social media person. We have CT scans, we have MRIs. In fact, we have more digital machines in our health system than any time before. We need more, but we have done better than the PNP up to 2015 when they were there. Oh, I have more time. Let me also say, because I have a lot to say, that we have embarked on the largest expansion of hospital build-out than any other government since independence, the largest upgrading of health centers than any other government since independence. We have hired we have put in our establishment over 3,000 doctors and nurses, double the numbers of community health aides, and last year we served up 3 million prescriptions to Jamaicans on the National Health Fund. In their 2015 year, they did less than 1 million. The facts are that more Jamaicans are being served by our health system. Do we need to do more? I am the first to say yes, which is why we need the next term to complete the work that we are doing. They talk about the issue, they did nothing. As far as corruption is concerned, that's innuendos and talk, no proof of that, and I condemn them for that kind of position.
Time. Thank you. All right, we're at that segment we're at that point in the debate where we allow the teams to ask a question of the other, yeah? So we're going to start with Team JLP posing a question to Team PNP.
Thank you. It is our considered view that the 3.5 million threshold increase that was recently announced is nothing but a Sam-Fi political scam. In the beginning it was 2.1, then it became 3, then it disappeared, and then it appeared 1 week before an election. You have to tell the people of Jamaica, I ask you to tell the people of Jamaica, is this just an election scam, or is it that you are going to be cutting much needed services such as NHF, where we spend $19 billion for drugs in hospitals, or university spending, which is $17 billion. Tell us how you plan to really cut discretionary areas, as you have called them.
I answered the question already, but I'm going to answer it again for the Jamaican people. I have said we are going to raise the threshold to $3.5 million. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that because your budget says that $140 billion of additional government revenues will be earned over 3 years. But that is at your 1% growth, which you have no ambition on. We're going to grow the economy by more than that so that we can pay for these things. There's also a benefit when you put more money in the hands of people because they're going to spend it, which will allow the government to collect more on GCT and other indirect taxes. We are the party committed to ensuring that all Jamaicans thrive and not just a few. Our plan is better. It is more equitable. Their plan will benefit the richer people more. Ours will benefit the working people, our nurses, our policemen, the security guards, the civil servants, to put more money to ease the pressure of the cost of living that they have to face. That is our commitment as a party of social justice and equality. So when you talk about Samfire, what Samfire you're talking about? Madness you're talking about? We will deliver on behalf of the Jamaican people. We have a history of protecting our most vulnerable and ensuring that they have more money to spend so that they can protect their families and those around them.
Time. JLP, you have a 45-second rebuttal.
Jamaicans, the 3.5 million threshold is the largest political scam. They cannot tell you how they're going to fund it. They look at the current budget, they see the projections growing to 140 billion, but they don't tell you that expenses are also growing. So that's not available for you to use towards the 3.5. And you also put out an ad showing how much people are going to get on a monthly basis. You know that's a lie. They may get it for 1 month, but it's not going to be there. The 3.5 that you're
thank
talking
you,
about
time. Thank you,
cannot be
Mrs.
done.
Williams. Thank you. Time. Team PNP, your turn to pose a question to Team JLP.
How can you be trusted to keep promises when you've broken promises on impeachment legislation, unexplained wealth orders, term limits, grand referenda? You've attacked the Integrity Commission relentlessly. You've undermined them. You have even failed to sign the Code of Conduct, basic principles dealing with integrity, honesty, selflessness, and accountability. How can anybody take your word? How do they know that those candidates who are under investigation for illicit enrichment are not offering themselves out there right now to the public, secretly knowing that they are corrupt? The clock isn't working, by the way.
Oh, the clock isn't. Okay, I'm just going to still go ahead and answer that question. It's a very curious question because I know in the 90s when I became politically aware, I remember politics and scandals. I remember hearing light bulb scandal, fat cat scandal, and then the mother of all scandals, FinSac. When you look in your dictionary and you look for scandal, you see the PNP right there. In terms of the Integrity Commission, it is this administration that implemented it. It is this administration that puts $2 billion annually to it. It is this administration in our manifesto that says we're going to strengthen our corruption prevention mechanisms in this country. It is this administration that has delivered Jamaica's best anti-corruption score. And it's not us that said it. It is an international body, Transparency International. We have been the ones that have been taking Jamaica on the path of anti-corruption, not the PNP.
In addition to that, let me just say very clearly that the Jamaican people are concerned about their lives, their livelihood, their communities, and by extension, Jamaica. They talk, we deliver. We have delivered the lowest unemployment, the lowest poverty, reduced crime despite Peter's objection by over 40%, the lowest in 30 years.
Time.
That is what is
Time.
important to the people of
Mr.
Jamaica.
Compton. Time. Thank you. Team PNP, you have a 45-second rebuttal.
It's interesting that they say that people are concerned about their standard of living because they're talking about things that happened in the 90s. That's over 30 years ago. Young people who are listening, does that affect your life now? Yet still, they're not speaking about the scandals that young people, anybody 25 years and younger, would have experienced what happened with rural reading education, to the point that education is behind. We are celebrating as a country five subjects being attained by 19% of our children. That's 1 in every 5. Is your child one of the 5 that is attaining 5 subjects? And if your child is not, what is happening to them? Our standards are too low. What happened to the used car scandal? What happened to Petrojam scandal? And I'm sure there are many others. Come on, man. 30 years ago, you're talking about.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Thank you. Time. Okay. What we're going to do now is this. We're going to invite Team PNP to deliver a closing statement of 2 minutes in length.
Jamaica, the current macroeconomic figures look good, but what is your lived reality? What do you go through every single day? The reality you face is that you are living hand to mouth. You are working, but you can only afford to go to work and come back based on the wages that you earn. You are working poor. 55% of Jamaicans are considered food insecure, which means they cannot afford to eat a proper meal per day. If they go to the hospitals that Chris supposed to bill, them can't find toilet paper or a bed. Jamaica, you deserve better. Time come for a better life. The next People's National Party administration will lift the tax threshold to 3.5 million, so we can put more money in the pockets of working Jamaicans. We are going to eliminate the tax on overtime so that, again, people can get a break. The same people who are working hard to build our economy. We are going to run a more efficient economy so that this thing called the Office of Plenty Ministries, that is a bottleneck where nothing can go through and it takes you a year to do something. We're going to eliminate those efficiencies so that we can grow the economy beyond 1%. We are going to ensure that anybody who is the first in their family gets a scholarship, and that means for persons who are currently at university, we are going to ensure that those who are buying a house get the $500,000 deposit. And I want to assure persons who earn over $3.5 million that this tax benefit is for you too. So what are we going to do? We're going to build a Jamaica in which all Jamaicans can feel a part of. So come September 3rd, when you go to the polling station, I want you to think carefully. I want you to use your head and put the X beside the head.
Time. Thank you. Thank you. May I add that the order of the closing statement was predetermined by a coin toss. Team JLP, your 2 minutes.
My fellow Jamaicans, in 2016, you asked the Jamaica Labour Party, you gave them your vote of confidence to correct the ills within our economy caused by the People's National Party. They served 24 of 27 years and created more debt, more unemployment, more poverty than any other administration. Fast forward to today, 2025, we have the lowest poverty rate, we have the lowest unemployment rate, we have a macroeconomic stable society, we have more companies registering to start their business, we have crime that has been the monster of your business, your personal life, down the lowest in 30 years, all by the policies of this government. We still have some ways to go. Our hospital and health centers have embarked on the largest expansion and build-out. They left it as a disaster. We have had to correct it. We ask you, on September 3rd, give the Jamaica Labour Party the opportunity to continue the work. We have done more for you than any other administration, and certainly more than the PNP has ever done. They are now coming with a one-week plan, essentially, to get your vote by claiming 3.5 when they rejected our 1.5 when we started. They don't know how to get us there. We will get you there. We are about protecting yourselves, your families, your communities by doing what is necessary. That is all that matters. Their diversion around innuendos, rumors, targeting persons, and character assassination does not impact you in your community. It is about the water, the road, the health services, and this government has done more. On the 3rd of September, put your X beside the bell, vote for the Jamaica Labour Party.
Thank you, thank you. In the good spirit of the debates, we invite Team JLP and Team PNP to meet in the middle and shake hands. You can applaud. All right. That concludes that concludes the economy debate between Dana Morris Dixon, Favour Williams, and Christopher Tufton for Team Jamaica Labour Party, and Julian Robinson, Keisha Anderson, and Peter Bunting for Team PNP. Join us again Thursday, August 28, 9 p.m. sharp for the final debate in the 2025 General Election Debate Series, the Leaders Debate, featuring party leaders Dr. Andrew Holness from the JLP and Mark Golding from the PNP.
Exactly as you intend.
Did you know that you can vote without the new voter ID card? Once you're registered to vote, that is, your name is on the voters list, you can vote in the upcoming election. If you don't have your voter ID card, visit your polling station on election day and our trained election day workers will assist you. That was a message from the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
Politicians are public servants. Voting is your chance to choose your representative. Your vote is your voice. It's your ticket to the national conversation about our best interests. Your decision at the polls shapes our world. Find out where and how you can vote by contacting the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. Visit their website at www.ecj.com.jm or give them a call at 888-991-8683. Your voice matters. Your vote counts.
Good evening. Welcome to the final of 3 general election debates organized by the Jamaica Debates Commission, staged before a live studio audience. The debates are intended to assist in identifying, clarifying, and understanding the issues being presented in this general election campaign. This evening's debate focuses on the leaders. Members of the panel of questioners are Dion Jackson Miller, Radio Jamaica 94 FM. And Giovanni Dennis, CVM TV. Taking and presenting questions from the public is our social media editor, Amoy Harriott, from CVM TV. I am your moderator, Archibald Gordon. As is customary, the audience is not to applaud the debaters except for now, after we announce each debater. Tonight, representing the People's National Party is party leader Mr. Mark Golding. Representing the Jamaica Labour Party is party leader Dr. Andrew Holness. The guidelines for tonight's debates have been previously agreed and are posted on the Debate Commission's website at www.jamaicadebatescommission.org. The guidelines include questions being no longer than 30 seconds, and each debater is allowed 90 seconds to respond to each question, and rebuttals are limited to 45 seconds. The questions posed in tonight's debate will come from 2 sources. The first source is you, the public. Send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. These will be checked, selected, and asked by our social media editor. The second source of questions is from our panel of journalists. Questions are not influenced by the Jamaica Debates Commission in any way. Our sign language interpreters tonight are Dorothy Williams and Terry-Ann Bernard from the Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf. Based on a previous coin toss, our first question tonight comes from Dion Jackson Miller of the RGR Group, and it will be directed to Dr. Andrew Holness.
Dr. Holness, government members have recommended taking the Auditor General off the Integrity Commission. There have been changes made by your administration to the Office of Political Ombudsman that have virtually destroyed its effectiveness as a check on the behavior of politicians. And there have been constant attacks by members of your administration on the Integrity Commission and on media and civil society groups that criticize your administration. Shouldn't Jamaicans be concerned about what appears to be a pattern by your administration of undermining oversight bodies in the public sector, civil society, and media?
There is absolutely no attempt by my administration, and indeed myself, to undermine any oversight body. Indeed, we have acted to strengthen and make them far more efficient. In placing the oversight of the political ombudsman under the office of the Electoral Commission, that's a move to strengthen and give it far more institutional framework. I myself have been very complimentary and acted in a very dignified way as it relates to the Integrity Commission.
Mr. Golding will have the opportunity to respond.
There has been a definite pattern of hostility from the Jamaica Labour Party government towards the institutions mentioned in the question, in particular the Integrity Commission, largely because it is well known that there are at least 10 members of Parliament who are under investigation for illicit enrichment, a serious corruption offence, of which the only one to be known is the one for whom a report has been completed and sent to to the Parliament, which is you, Andrew. As a result of that, they have done their very best to try to neuter that critical institution, including the Prime Minister bringing that institution to court to undermine its effectiveness and indeed eliminate it entirely.
Our next question comes from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Mr. Mark Golding.
Mr. Golding, Keith Duncan says the PNP's proposal to increase the income tax threshold to 3.5 million is impractical and impossible to fund without new taxes. Can you explain how these planned tax breaks will work without hurting the economy?
The context in which we have decided to increase the threshold to 3.5 million is the hollowing out of the middle class in this country. Working families finding it extremely difficult to make ends meet. And we believe with the debt to GDP ratio having now, after 13 and a half years of belt tightening and austerity, having now reached the cusp of the target of 60% of GDP introduced into the fiscal rules in law under Portia Simpson Miller, this is a time, this year it's expected actually, with the readjustment of the definition and calculation of GDP, this is the year that we expect to achieve that target. That will release 2.5% to 3% of GDP of additional resources, which were not previously budgeted for in the fiscal policy paper. That is more than sufficient to pay for our entire program, including the $3.5 million increase to 3.5 million of the tax threshold, which will make our civil servants and our middle managers, and indeed most of Jamaicans who are presently suffering under the high burden of the cost of living, have money that they can spend, they can fix up their homes, extend their homes with a room, buy a car if they don't have one, pay down debt where they may be in arrears. It is necessary to preserve the country from brain drain and to keep the society intact.
Dr. Holness now has the opportunity to respond.
The hollowing out of the middle class is an act of the PNP. They totally decimated the middle class. It is the Jamaica Labour Party that introduced the increase in the non-tax threshold that recreated a middle class in Jamaica. In fact, when you look at the salary profile of PAYE contributors, you would see that their salaries have all risen. It is the Jamaica Labour Party, through the compensation review, that has increased salaries by over 200 billion Jamaican dollars for public sector workers. The current proposal of the PNP is unworkable.
It's now time for a question from social media. We're going to Amoy Harriot.
Thanks, Archie. Our first social media question tonight comes from Instagram. Shania in Kingston, she says, low voter turnout suppresses the effectiveness of a democratic society. Many Jamaicans refuse to vote because they believe both parties are corrupt. What would you say to the significant population of non-voters? And if elected, how will you hold politicians accountable for offenses against the people instead of protecting them?
So in this instance, the question, you have 90 seconds to answer, and we begin with Dr. Holness.
Corruption is a serious problem in our country, and corruption requires strong leadership. From my position as Prime Minister, I have taken action against any member of my political party that has been involved or accused of anything that suggests corruption. In my own case, I have been investigated for a year with an expert forensic auditor. The findings of that report have suggested no corruption. There have been no charges. Every aspect of my report, every aspect of my personal life and my personal financial details are in the public domain. I am the politician about which Jamaica knows the most. And therefore, I am the politician who can stand with the greatest moral authority to treat with any matter that is considered corrupt, as I have done in the past. And I want to give this assurance to the Jamaican people that you know me, you know about me, you can trust me, and you know that I stand against corruption.
Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond to that social media question as well. Within
Andrew,
90
what
seconds.
they know about you is that you have 28 bank accounts, that you received several $1 million in cash deposits from anonymous donors in your bank account, that your companies had transactions of over $400 million, several thousand transactions between them, and that Positive Jamaica Foundation, a non-profit which you are intimately connected with, provided resources which you use for personal investments through your personal company. We have signed the Leadership Code of Conduct developed by Integrity Commission. All of our spokespersons and myself have signed. None of your people have signed it. I am committed to ensuring that all members of the executive, when we form government, will have their Integrity Commission declarations published, not just the leader of the opposition and what should happen, but hasn't happened in your case because you're not certified, the Prime Minister. So the whole question that has been asked is an excellent question. And we really need to step up our vigilance against corrupt behaviour, nepotism and cronyism. The volume of scandals under this Jamaica Labour Party government is unprecedented. Over the number of ministers who have had to be removed from frontline duty, many of them parked in the naughty corner in OPM rather than being sacked. It is a disgrace to the country, and your personal situation where you're operating under a deep cloud because your Integrity Commission declarations are not certified, also is something which Jamaica cannot go forward with.
We'll now take a short break and we invite you to stay tuned. Welcome back to the Leaders' Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. We now ask Dion Jackson-Miller to start this segment with a question for Mr. Mark Golding.
Going back to the income tax proposal, Mr. Golding, because several people have been taking issue with your numbers. The PNP's assertion that it can fund the proposal through projected revenue growth doesn't seem to take into, as well as organic revenue growth, doesn't seem to take into account increase in expenditure. That's also projected, as well as low growth rates that no government in recent years has managed to overcome. Isn't it true that your numbers just don't add up?
The fiscal policy paper does project over the next 3 years some $160 billion of additional revenue. The degree to which there are accompanying expenses will depend on how we manage the expense side of the budget. There's also the fact that there are $360 billion of programs in the budget that represent the priorities of a given government at a particular point in time. When we are elected, we're not going to be elected to maintain the current trajectory that Jamaica is on. People want to see change. And most fundamentally, the issue really is the fact that we are coming to the end of the period of austerity, the period where Jamaica has been for 13 and a half years, steadfastly paying down debt. So that the debt to GDP ratio, which we inherited at 147% of GDP at the beginning of 2012, is now, in this fiscal year, projected to achieve the target of 60% of GDP. Once that happens, we no longer have to reduce debt as a priority. We just have to maintain that debt profile. That will release resources of 2.5% to 3% of GDP, which is close to $90 billion of additional resources which no longer have to be part of your primary surplus target. So we will be able to fund our program quite comfortably come April next year when the fiscal year starts.
Dr. Holness,
there is a song which says, when the rum tells you you're a big dancer. I don't know what the leader of the opposition was drinking. Firstly, the debt to GDP for this fiscal year is not projected to be 60%. It is projected to be 65% thereabouts. If the leader of the opposition is depending on growth to provide the revenues for $75 billion of expenditure, the country would have to grow between 8 and 10%, which has not done that since the 60s. Thirdly, yes, there are $300 billion of programs. What are these programs? Pharmaceuticals.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Thank you, Dr. Holness. Our next question is from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Dr. Holness.
Dr. Holness, you said on February 7, 2016 in Sam Sharp Square, Montego Bay, within our first 100 days in government, we will start the legislative process to fix the general election date in Jamaica. It's been 3,490 days since. In your May 2016 budget debate, you further stated, the country should not be distracted by protracted periods of uncertainty. Yet, that's exactly what happened with this year's election. After 2 consecutive terms in office, you have failed to deliver on this promise. Why?
Your research into this matter, I respect the question, is incomplete. At the calling of the 2020 general elections, I explained to the public in Parliament that our government actually started work on fixed election date, and we found that it was inconsistent with our constitutional arrangements. And therefore, we did not include it in our 2020 manifesto. It is no longer a part of our platform. More to that, however, is the fact that in seeking to have all of these previous considerations included, we went about putting in place a constitutional reform commission that would bring all the considerations for constitutional reform under an expert review. That expert review was thwarted by the opposition. So, yes, these considerations were considered from 2016, but the reality of our constitutional arrangement made us take a different route, which is to go to a comprehensive constitutional reform, which was frustrated by the opposition.
Over to Mr. Golding to respond.
Just before I respond, just to point out that Mr. Holness's data is not current. The Fiscal Commissioner issued a release, I think it was today actually, indicating that with the National System of Accounts being updated, GDP has been adjusted, and we're now at 62% of GDP. That's what the debt is at the end of March this year, and we will more than likely achieve 60% this fiscal year. No, please, you're not entitled to do that. The flip-flopping from the Prime Minister is manifest. They were supposed to have impeachment. There's no impeachment. Fixed election day, no fixed election day. Ring fencing the NHT, they have taken over $130 billion out of the NHT. Cannot be trusted.
Just reminding that there is a format to the debate and asking the debaters to respect the format to which they have agreed. It's now time to go to the next question, social media. Amoy Harriet, over to you.
This question comes from Janine. Parliament has passed a constitutional amendment bill and a referendum bill to transition Jamaica into a republic. Could you clarify the economic and administrative implications of this transition and how you intend to ensure that the process doesn't distract from Jamaica's economic priorities like debt reduction, investment diversification, and public services?
That question goes to Mr. Golding first and then to Dr. Holness.
In answer to the question, we can whistle and ride. So we have done very well as a nation in reducing our public debt. We ensured that the fiscal rules were very strong with an algorithm, an equation in the fifth schedule to the Financial Administration Audit Act that determines the fiscal balance that must be hit by each year's budget, and that has ensured that successive governments have stayed on course to take it down to 60%. We can do constitutional reform, but it requires authentic consultation with the people, and there must be an effort to have bipartisan consensus on critical issues. And we have not been able to achieve that consensus yet on the critical issue of decolonization, in particular our final court, which is now the Privy Council, the King's Court, that makes orders in the name of the King, as opposed to the regional court, which has been established, the Caribbean Court of Justice, which Jamaica helped to design, helped to fund, and which has developed over the last 20 years a reputation for independence and excellence. There are aspects of the bills that are in Parliament now that we have big problems with. In particular, the fact that effectively it will allow the Prime Minister to appoint the president, because a simple majority of both houses will do it if we do not agree who that person is. I think that is wrong. I think that the president of the country must command the trust and confidence of both sides of the political aisle, and indeed the wider public.
Dr. Holness?
To be clear, the bills before Parliament do not give the Prime Minister the ability to appoint the President. We are the party that have advanced the greatest, the process of repatriating our sovereignty. I am a Jamaican through and through, and I want to see my country's sovereignty represented by a Jamaican. It puzzles me as to why the opposition is trying to frustrate this. The opposition says we must always consult the people, yet they do not want to consult the people on a fundamental architecture of our society, our final court of appeal. They are inconsistent, they are hypocritical, flip-floppers. They were the ones who nudged, encouraged, and agreed with the government that a process should be started for the repatriation of our sovereignty. Midway the process, they have turned around to say they have challenges with it. What is it that they really want? Are you truly a Jamaican?
It's time for our next question. It is from Dion Jax Miller, and it goes to Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, the PNP is promising a tax break for small businesses for the first 3 years of formally incorporating, as well as a raft of other targeted tax relief measures. How do you respond to criticisms that your tax plan reintroduces inefficiencies, tax avoidance, and corruption into the tax system that have been eliminated over the past 15 years?
First of all, I think the Prime Minister repeated innuendo or direct attack which has been leveled by his party on my nationality. And, you know, I just wanted to just make it absolutely clear that I am indeed born here as a Jamaican. Here is my birth certificate, and it shows I was born at the University Hospital on July 19th, 1965, and it's right here. I hope your camera can pick it up. And I have a copy for you, Prime Minister, right here. And I wish you could provide me with a copy of your certification, but of course you can't do so. Now, on the question of tax, there's a third schedule to the GCT Act now, which has a long list of items which are not subject to GCT that are exempt. We feel that laptops and other devices are critical tools of trade, and it is wrong to tax them, and we are going to add them to that list. And similarly, sports equipment, which is vital for social cohesion. Sports is a critical part of keeping young people away from straying down the wrong path and so on. Why are we taxing those items? That cost of living is already high. So I don't agree. The system we have already caters for items which should not be taxed. And we're simply saying we want to adjust those items to include things that should be there but are not yet there.
Dr. Holness?
The Jamaica Labour Party is the only political organization to have reduced taxes. We reduced the GCT from 16.5% to 15%. And we have done so in a way that has not compromised our revenues or the sustainability of future programs. All, and I repeat, all the tax suggestions and promises of the opposition will compromise our fiscal arrangements and place us back in debt or result in increased taxes. The best way to provide social services is to identify the persons who need it.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Our next question is from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Dr. Holness.
The Rio Cobre is a major water source for the St. Catherine Plains and communities in and around Spanish Town. Yet, since 2019, under your watch as Environment Minister, there have been close to a dozen chemical spills, causing fish kills and disrupting lives. You say you're a champion of the environment. why hasn't there been tougher sanctions for the repeated breaches of environmental permits by the companies culpable?
The Jamaica Labour Party has put in very tough sanctions, including the requirement for the provision of bonds. We are the only government to have called these bonds and brought polluters to court. We have also started the process of studying the Rio Cobre to ensure that there is no discharge into the Rio Cobre. And this is something that I am personally very serious about, and we will put in legislation to end discharge into the Rio Cobre. It becomes even more important as we have now put in place the Content Rio Cobre water project, for which we are pulling 15 million gallons of water from the Rio Cobre per day. So we must protect that asset, and I give the public my sincere commitment that we will protect the Rio Cobre.
Mr. Golding?
Quickly, just to say that the JLP is not the only party to have reduced taxes. The PNP reduced the personal income tax rate from 33.33% to 25%. We reduced the GCT rate from 17.5% to 16%. There's been reductions of taxes on both sides. They plan to reduce, they say, income tax from 25 to 15, which is going to help the rich and the ministers who pay themselves 200+ % pay increases. On the environmental issue, you are the one who overturned NEPA's decision not to grant a permit for the mining of the Dry Harbour Mountains, which is a very sensitive nature reserve. You're flip-flopping again, Andrew.
Our next question is from social media. Over to Amoy Harriot.
Well, Archie, Delanore says many Jamaicans would like to see the full rollout of body-worn cameras on our police officers, even more so now given the increase in fatal police shootings. Will this be something that you'll prioritize should you be elected?
Mr. Golding will respond first.
First of all, I think it's very important to acknowledge and commend the excellent work done by the police force over the last year and a half in bringing the rate of violent crime, in particular murders in the country, down from the intolerable levels where it had been under this government. More murders committed in Andrew Holness's 2 years in office than any other 2-year term in the history of Jamaica. The police have finally abandoned the failed policies that we did our best to stop, the mass use of states of emergency, which the court has ruled as unconstitutional, and have gone now to a much more targeted approach, a much more strategically sound approach. Having said that, we do feel that it's very important that the public as a whole must have trust and confidence in the police, because the police rely on intelligence and information from the public. And therefore, if the public feel that there's excessive use of force and there's no accountability for it, they're not going to be as cooperative as we need them to be. I think, therefore, it's in the interests of the Jamaican society and the police themselves to have the benefit of body-worn cameras, especially when they go on special operations, so there can be no question, nobody can accuse them wrongly of having used excessive force when the force was legitimate as used. And to the extent that there may occasionally be an excessive use of force, the persons are held accountable for that in accordance with the law. That's what the rule of law requires.
Dr. Holness?
The government is already in the process of procuring and acquiring body-worn cameras. Several thousands of them are under procurement and will be deployed shortly to the police force. We consider this as absolutely important in giving confidence to the public regarding the actions of the police force. And the police themselves want to have these cameras as protection for themselves. Interestingly, however, the leader of the opposition states that the state of public emergency did not work. Now, murders under the PNP increased to over 1,000 murders in 1997 and remained there for over 30 years. It is the Jamaica Labour Party in 3 consecutive years that have reduced murders by 55%. The states of public emergency worked. The states of public emergency were supported by the PNP when Peter Phillips was the leader of the opposition, and it reduced murders by 27%. Since we did not have the cooperation of the opposition, murders went up. A question must be asked. Who is responsible for the increase in murders when there was a tool that could have saved lives? It is a serious question.
Now, Giovanni Dennis has indicated that he would like to ask one of his two follow-up questions. I believe that question will go to
Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, I want to go back to the matter of your dual citizenship. It took days for you to confirm that you held dual citizenship and weeks for you to renounce it. Why didn't you acknowledge the issue up front, and why should Jamaicans believe you will be forthcoming with them on any issue, even if it's uncomfortable in the first instance?
I didn't hesitate to acknowledge dual citizenship. I was born in Jamaica. I had a British father, and I inherited British citizenship by descent from him. And that's lawful under the laws of Jamaica, and indeed parliamentarians in Jamaica are permitted to be dual nationals. I therefore didn't consider it to be something which was problematic. However, when it was raised last year and politicized, I decided I want to know what the Jamaican people felt about it, because I thought really my response ought to be driven by them. We did an internal poll. It showed that a majority thought I should renounce, and so I did. And I renounced my British citizenship in August last year.
Dr. Holness, rebuttal.
You know, this is a strange one. A man who wants to represent his country must choose his country. He doesn't need to ask anyone. He should choose. And that's why we say we choose Jamaica. It is indeed of concern that it was not until your 40s, when you were becoming a minister of government, that you sought to have a Jamaican passport. It is not your birth that makes you Jamaican. It is the choices you make for your country, including supporting a process that would make a Jamaican head of state here, including getting a Jamaican passport.
Our next question is from social media. Over to Amoy, and that question will go to Mr. Golding.
On TikTok, Taj says, given the current negotiations surrounding the U.S. Keep Call Centers in America Act and its potential to impact over 50,000 Jamaican BPO workers, how does your administration plan to safeguard both employment and livelihoods for young Jamaicans if outsourcing opportunities decline?
That's a good question, and the truth is that the evolution of technology, especially the advent of artificial intelligence, is also a threat to the type of services that are provided through outsourcing. So we are going to have to ensure that we try and upskill our existing workforce so that they can be trained to do the type of tasks that technology isn't going to be as adept at dealing with as human beings. And we also have to provide other avenues for employment for young people. That's why we're going to establish the Youth Innovation Fund, which will provide grants and loans to young people to get them into business if they want to get into business. And it will enable them to pursue their talents in tech or in creative industries or any other area of endeavor so that they can express themselves, help to monetize their talent, and build brand Jamaica. And so those are the types of things that need to be done. We also want to emphasize training and the role of the private sector in training. We'll be giving an incentive, a dollar-for-dollar matching of all businesses who invest in upskilling and training. We will match their investment through the HEART program to encourage them to invest further in training and upskilling the workforce so they can employ more people in higher paying jobs. Right now, too many of our people are struggling in low-income jobs, low-wage jobs, low-tech jobs.
The same question goes to Dr. Holness.
Well, let me give you some practical and real answers instead of airy-fairy stuff. Jamaica is already positioning itself for nearshoring and friendly shoring of the recalibration of the global supply chain. And that is why we have made a massive investment in the Caymanas development and in Raintree. These are real investments that will bring production to Jamaica and jobs to Jamaica. We have already started to ensure that over 120,000 Jamaican youths can access training free of cost under HART. And much of that training is in support of not just BPO, but logistics. But more than that, we saw the change in technology coming and the impact it will have. And that is why we have invested in a coding and technology academy, the Amber Heart Academy, where hundreds of Jamaican youth are trained in not just the basics, but as high up as data science. Because what we want to create in our society are the trained skills that can attract the jobs that we are already negotiating for. You have a government that understands the changing global dynamics.
Thank you, Dr.
and putting in
Holness.
place measures to take advantage of it.
We'll now take a short break and we invite you to stay tuned. Welcome back to the Leaders' Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, again, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. We now ask Dion Jackson Miller to start this segment with a question for Dr. Andrew Holness.
2021, you were appointed to the Queen's Privy Council and the Ancient Advisory Body, and your administration's recent attempt at constitutional reform would have seen the removal of the British monarch from Jamaica's parliament and executive in phase 1, but not from our judiciary. Opposition or no opposition, referendum or not, can you tell us your position, whether you support the removal of the Privy Council as Jamaica's final court, and if so, when?
My position is that Jamaica should have its own local court as its final appellate court. But I also do respect the Caribbean Court of Justice, of which we are a part of its original jurisdiction. I will say, however, that on a matter as important as this, that forms the architecture of our nation, the people must be consulted. And that is why I put in place a process that would begin these consultations in a practical and phased basis, a process which has been thwarted by the opposition. Now, the leader of the opposition raises questions about democracy. On one hand, he does not want to consult. He wants the government to just act without consulting with the people, but then turns around and says that we are the ones undermining democracy. The leader of the opposition must be consistent. Democracy requires us to consult the people on these critical matters.
Mr. Golding?
Yes, Mr. Holness, shortly before the visit of Prince William to Jamaica, became a member of the King's Privy Council. So one has to wonder how he was choosing Jamaica when he did that. Anyway, to answer the question, we want to follow the Constitution, and the Constitution has been ruled by the Privy Council as the highest court as not requiring a referendum for the decision as to whether or not the CCJ should become the final court replacing the Privy Council. And that is what we think ought to be done. No other country that has moved away from the Privy Council has had a referendum to do so, and there are good reasons for that.
Our next question is from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, the PNP under your leadership has flip-flopped on a number of issues. For example, Julian Robinson on May 16, 2023, said the opposition takes no issue with the massive salary increase for parliamentarians. The very next day, the PNP released a statement objecting to the increase. Why should Jamaicans trust that you won't similarly make about turns on promises you are making now?
When Julian said that in Parliament, he was referring to the principle of parliamentarians getting an increase. He wasn't addressing the specifics of what was being proposed. We hadn't had a discussion around those specifics. When we looked at the details and we saw the massive increase that the Prime Minister was proposing for himself and for his ministers, we felt it was unconscionable to do that in the context where the public sector workers had just had their salary negotiations under some duress in relation to the teachers in particular, finalized, and many of them were getting 20% over 2 years. That is why we had to clarify our position, because it was not in accordance with what we thought that principle demanded. Now, over time, thinking can evolve. People change their positions on issues. So, for example, we are looking at this whole question of the 3.5 salary, the $3.5 million threshold increase. And we've seen where, as the debt target is achieved and resources can be released, it can be afforded. We weren't calling for 3.5 2 years ago, but we see that the need, inflation, etc., have happened. Cost of living pressures are there. Our evolution, our thinking has evolved, and we think that this is the right thing to do now, and we're committing ourselves to it. So, you know, I don't think the criticism is justified.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Dr. Holness now has...
I have to call out that the leader of the opposition is telling lies. Julian Robinson stood in Parliament and said he supported the increase. Clear, and the tapes are there. Secondly, he calls the increase unconscionable, yet he takes it. I, Andrew Michael Holness, did not take it. The option was available to him as well. I chose not to take it. The leader of the opposition says, I have 28 bank accounts. That is absolutely not true. The report of the Integrity Commission includes accounts that are closed, accounts that are dormant, insurance accounts, and investment accounts.
Thank you.
They have
Thank
weaponized
you, Dr. Holness. Our next question is from Dion Jackson Miller, and it goes to Dr. Holness.
Dr. Holness, in your 2016 manifesto, you said, quote, will make it mandatory that the appointment to sensitive posts be approved by a 2/3 majority in each House of Parliament, thereby requiring consensus between government and opposition. Now, the posts identified included the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions. Not only did you not implement this, but you disregarded the opposition's objections in the case of the recent extension, which led to a court case. Wasn't this a betrayal of the principle of bipartisanship that you had been proposing 9 years before?
Absolutely not. And indeed, in some instances, there are parliamentary review of sensitive positions. And I want to be also very clear that the constitutional reform process that we have put in place would take into consideration all of these proposals that were made. We cannot tinker with the Constitution, doing a little thing here and a little thing there, and therefore we decided to put it in a comprehensive process, again, which the opposition has thwarted. But since I have some time, let me also address some other issues about the leader of the opposition. In my own Integrity Commission report published in Parliament, there are no findings of corruption. All my assets are in Jamaica, and I have declared everything to the Integrity Commission. The leader of the opposition, however, also had a report from the Contractor General previously, which found that they benefited from public resources in an irregular way. They termed it a sweetheart deal. In my report, there is no such thing. None of my resources are ever connected to any public funds or any public resources. However, for the leader of the opposition, the report was very clear that their operations were considered to be irregular and a sweetheart.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Mr. Golding has an opportunity to respond.
The Prime Minister has no interest in bipartisanship. He has strong dictatorial tendencies and really would prefer not to consult with the opposition at all if he didn't have to. And I say that based on my experience with him over the last 5 years. He talks about he didn't want to tinker with the Constitution. Then why did he seek to amend the Constitution as a one-off, tabling the bill and seeking to pass it on the same day to extend the DPP's tenure beyond what was constitutionally allowed? That was tinkering, Prime Minister, so come on. And in terms of Integrity Commission reports, my declarations have been certified every year as being proper. Yours have not. because you are under investigation for
Thank
illicit
you,
enrichment.
Mr. Golding. Our follow-up question now, Dion Jackson has indicated she'd like to use the first of her follow-up questions.
On the same issue of the DPP's appointment, Principal Dr. Holness doesn't require constitutional amendments, though. And if it is that you were committed to the principle of bipartisanship, why would you have rejected such strongly worded opposition coming from the opposition leader?
End of the day, this matter was taken to the court, and the courts decided, and the DPP was reinstated. I want to also clarify something that the leader of the opposition said. The investigations carried out by the Integrity Commission are at an end. I am not currently under any investigation. There were no findings of corruption or charges. The leader of the opposition continues to try to weaponize these things because that is the only crutch he has to stand on. I, Andrew Holness, am thoroughly transparent.
Thank you, Dr. Holness.
Thank you, Dr.
Holness. Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond.
Again, Andrew Holness is being disingenuous and tricky. The Integrity Commission referred his matters to the Financial Investigations Division, a law enforcement agency charged with investigating serious financial crimes, for further investigation. What was his response? When there was a vacancy at the head of it, he sought to appoint or influence the appointment of somebody who is his close personal friend and who had said publicly on nationwide radio that he didn't see anything wrong in the report on Mr. Holness's financial situation, the Integrity Commission's report. It was clearly a set-up job, and we feel that very strongly that this needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Our next question is from social media. I'm going to hand over to Amoy.
Malik on Facebook says, many Jamaicans feel the economic growth that's been reported hasn't lowered their grocery bills or electricity costs. How do you measure economic success beyond the statistics?
Dr. Holness has the opportunity to respond first.
The first measure is income. And 280,000 jobs have been created in Jamaica, which means that more Jamaicans have income. There is a rise in income. Let's look at the minimum wage. The Jamaica Labour Party government has tripled the minimum wage. So there are more Jamaicans earning more at the lower levels of our country. Further, access to basic amenities. 350,000 Jamaicans have access to potable water, and in our next term, we will ensure that the 900,000 Jamaicans which now don't have reliable or full access to water will have access to water. Transportation, public transportation. We have done an amazing job in reducing bus fares and increasing the convenience and efficiency of public transportation, including implementing a rural bus fare system. On electricity, we have reduced the GCT on electricity, a promise made by the previous government and not kept. We have done it in a sustainable way. But more importantly, we have not placed any new taxes on the people of Jamaica since our government has been managing the fiscal affairs of this country.
Mr. Golding has an opportunity to respond.
First of all, I think the question is sound because statistics don't tell the full picture. Jamaica's competitiveness has been falling, yet they say that we have record low unemployment. Several 100,000 Jamaicans are outside the labour force and are not measured for that purpose. And indeed, you're regarded as being employed if you're employed 1 hour a week. 55% of Jamaicans are suffering from food insecurity. That is what the United Nations says, the FAO, which is an agency of the UN, says. 55% of Jamaicans are not getting adequate nutrition. That is not consistent with prosperity or low poverty rates or low unemployment rates. As for transportation costs, Those are extremely high for many Jamaicans, which is why we want to introduce the RIDE program, a subsidy for rural children to help them to get to school in an affordable way. It's $10,000 per child who needs it in each family. So if you have more than one child, each one of them would qualify for this, because we recognize that that is one of the causes of absenteeism in schools at the moment. As for electricity, the rate and cost of electricity under this government has gone way higher than where we left it at 23 cents per kilowatt hour. Now it's over 40. And as for the GCT, they are providing a subsidy at the moment, but they haven't said for how long, and there's no commitment to keep it on.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. We are now going to be taking a short break, and we invite you to stay tuned. Welcome back to the final segment of the Leaders' Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. Now, this segment actually begins with a follow-up question. Giovanni Dennis has indicated that he'd like to ask one of his follow-up questions, and that goes to Dr. Andrew Holness.
Dr. Holness, on the matter of your government's hostility towards accountability institutions, in a world where journalists reporting on the conflict in Gaza are being murdered, the constant attacks on the press in Jamaica by both political parties undermine press freedom and has been reflected in Jamaica's slippage on the World Press Freedom Index. We have just seen the release of the names of journalists that both political parties objected to participating in the national debates. Why do both parties continue to undermine press freedom and put journalists in danger?
To be clear, my political party does not undermine press freedom. To be clear, my political party did not object. The objections came from the PNP. And historically, it is the PNP that has been vociferous, including attacking a particular radio station. I personally have stayed away from any negative commentary about any journalists. Journalists are important, and I support strong journalism. And I want to make that absolutely clear. In the time I have, I will rebut. I am in no way associated with the head of the FID. My understanding is that the head of the FID is a friend of the leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond.
Press freedom is a fundamental pillar on which democracy is based, and I and my party fully support press freedom. The Prime Minister said something which was untrue when he said that only our side objected to some journalists. Their side also objected. In fact, we objected to 3, they objected to 4 journalists, and the matter was eventually resolved, and here we are. And the truth is that some journalists in the country are not as independent as others, are not as professional as others, and it is quite legitimate to criticize persons who you don't feel are living up to the standards of their profession. But we would never do anything to threaten or undermine press freedom, or indeed to make any journalist feel unsafe. And if it ever happens, we'll take out whatever it needs to stop it happening.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Our next question is from Dion Jax-Miller, and it goes to Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, Causal Barnett is a blind Jamaican who is also a very experienced and very qualified teacher, but who was out of a job for 4 years. Now, your manifesto promises to protect the right of persons with disabilities. Those Jamaicans are disproportionately affected by poverty. Vision 2030 says that governments haven't been living up to a reserve a percentage of public sector jobs for persons with disabilities. That would have helped people like Mr. Barnett and others like him. Would a PNP government implement such a recommendation?
Thank you for that question, Dion. I come from a family that has delivered transformational national service to the country, in particular in the area of persons with disabilities. My father was the first orthopedic surgeon in Jamaica, and he established what was then the Polio Center, became the Mona Rehabilitation Center. And when he died in 1996, it was named after him. It's now called the Sir John Golding Rehab Center. He also established the Hope Valley Experimental School, a school for integrated education for able-bodied and children with disabilities. 2 parliamentarians went to that school, and he established the National Road Safety Council, because of his awareness of the fact that many people who end up with disabilities is as a result of road traffic accidents. I am and we are very committed to implementing the UN Convention for the Persons with Disabilities, which Jamaica was the first country in the hemisphere to sign, And we are the ones who passed the Disabilities Act, brought it to Parliament. This government took 7 years to bring it into effect. We're glad it's in effect, but it needs to be actualized now in practice so that persons with disabilities feel and see the benefits of it. We are fully committed to that, and we are going to establish a National Disabilities Fund to aid persons with disabilities so that they can have their assistive aids, they can get help to establish themselves in business at home and improve sidewalks for their transportation. We are committed to the community of persons with disabilities.
Dr. Holness has the opportunity to respond.
To be clear, one of the things that I'm very proud of is that my administration has reserved under special orders through the NHD houses for persons with disability. They have a direct access. Under the new social housing program, we make it a point of duty to support persons with disabilities, and many persons with disabilities have benefited. Our administration have brought into effect the Disabilities Act. We continue to support the disabled community with grants and an increase in path benefits. Our government is committed to supporting persons with disability in Jamaica.
Dion Jax-Miller has indicated that she would like to take her second follow-up question.
Yes, Mr. Golding, we hear the broad statements of policy and principle, but what persons with disabilities want are jobs, which is why I'm asking specifically if your administration would implement a recommendation to reserve a certain percentage of public sector jobs for persons with disabilities.
Yes, we have committed to that across MD&As, ministries, departments and agencies, that we would like to see quotas or an allocation for the disability community to have the benefit of employment opportunities in the public sector. But we also recognize the need to ensure that those who have the capacity to deliver services or to make things at home are empowered to do so. And that's why we have the National Disabilities Fund, which we will establish to help them to get a start in life in the area of business and fulfill their talents and monetize their talents so they can uplift themselves and their families from their homes. So yes, we're fully on board with the idea that you mentioned, Ian.
Dr. Holness, to rebut?
Most definitely. We will do that, and we will do more. In fact, at the Office of the Prime Minister, we do make it a point of duty to ensure that persons with disabilities are employed at the Office of the Prime Minister, and we will give that directive, if it is not already in effect, to all the ministries. But more than that, people with disabilities want to be independent, and they want to work independently, many of them. And we, through various initiatives, including through the various development funds that we have, will provide resources to persons with disability so that they can start their own businesses. And I think that is really the critical thing, to ensure that our persons with disability are independently earning income.
Our next question still goes to Dr. Holness, and it comes from Giovanni Dennis.
Dr. Holness, communities like Charlemont, Birdsucker, Acadia, and many others across the corporate area have complained and have taken the government to court for inadequately regulated developments. Justice Hart Hines, in a 2021 ruling, said the KSAMC and NEPA have been dilatory in their mandate to enforce local planning laws and regulations. In December 2021, he said work was being done to restructure the entire approval process, yet the issues persist. Why isn't more being done to force the KSAMC and the NEPA to do their jobs to enforce the building regulations?
When that comment was made, the situation was as you have said. Since then, there have been significant improvement in enforcement, and including a new planning order for Kingston and St. Andrew, which clarifies many of the issues that were in contention, including we have included more inspection officers at the KSAMC, and there are more cases now being brought to court which are being prosecuted. So there has been an improvement. However, I believe that there is still much more work to be done in terms of increasing the enforcement capabilities. And yes, there are some legislative changes that need to be clarified, particularly as to how titles are issued and how densities are approved.
Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond.
Since the People's National Party assumed the leadership in the council of the KSAMC, the new Mayor Andrew Swaby has been pursuing internal governance reform, including persons from outside, to try and improve standards and processes, make them more transparent and effective, so that the citizens of the corporate area can expect higher levels of governance. I think it's unfortunate that in the case of Mr. Holness and his wife, they are in the business of real estate development, or certainly she is, and that presents serious conflicts of interest which have manifested themselves in some of their own schemes that they have developed. I think we need to have rules which preclude that kind of activity so that there's no question of conflicts of interest.
We've come to the point in the debate when the debaters get an opportunity to ask each other questions. We begin. We invite Mr. Golding to ask a question of Dr. Andrew Holness.
Mr. Holness, the Integrity Commission, in their court filing in the case that you brought to try and strike down the act and eliminate the offence for which you are being investigated, have said that you had money in the Ponzi scheme Olint and you got it out, while others suffered losses. You had money in Cash Plus, another Ponzi scheme where people lost lots of money, you got it out. And of course, you had money in SSL, and you were able to withdraw your money before it collapsed. In fact, I would say the only person that Usain Bolt has not been able to catch up with is you. And I want to ask you, how do you think and why do you think the people of Jamaica should trust you to be in charge of the governance of the country for a third term with that track record and with that cloud hanging over your head?
The leader of the opposition is a liar and cannot be trusted. I lost money in Cash Plus and Olint. However, the PNP accepted and received $1 million from Olint. He has no credibility to talk about Ponzi scheme. They benefited from the Ponzi scheme to fund their election campaign. He questions my wife's integrity about development. My wife and my family are hard-working Jamaicans. We started off with the taxes like many other Jamaicans, and I have worked hard. He has sought to weaponize that. But the people who receive me when I go into the country, they say, Andrew, don't worry. No weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Mr. Golding, your rebuttal.
I've made the point that for the Prime Minister and his wife to be in the real estate business when so many of the agencies of government which regulate that business fall under his Ministry of Economic Development and Job Creation creates the possibilities for conflicts of interest, and I stick by that position.
We now invite Dr. Andrew Holness to ask a question of Mr. Mark Golding.
The leader of the opposition speaks about integrity and trust. He was an advisor to a former Minister of Finance that put in place a policy of high interest rate, for which he acted as a broker for the government to invest loans and bonds for which he received a commission of high interest rate, to the point where one of his members described this as the greatest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. He, the Toponaris lawyer, has made billions of this, yet he does not disclose this in his integrity report. In fact, he doesn't even have a house in Jamaica. How can we believe you? And do you have assets in overseas companies for which you have not disclosed?
I've disclosed all my assets, and that's why my Integrity Commission declarations are certified. Your allegations are scurrilous and false. You made reference to DB&G, although you didn't call the name. DB&G was established in 1992 as an investment firm by 3 young Jamaican entrepreneurs. When the financial sector meltdown occurred some years later, and FinSAC was established as a response to try and protect the savers of this country so they didn't lose their money in their deposits in the banking system and their pensions and so on, DB&G, like other financial firms at the time, had to navigate that carefully to survive. We eventually were approached by a leading international bank, Scotiabank, who did a thorough due diligence on the company. It's a listed company, where we were a listed company from inception. Our audited financial statements are public. Our quarterly financial statements are public. They looked at us inside out and upside down, found nothing, absolutely nothing untoward, and they bought the company. And we have nothing to hide on when it comes to DBNG. I would say, why is your government, having spent $200 million on this Commission of Inquiry into FinSac, hiding the FinSac report? Is it because you and your wife bought a house from somebody who had been FinSacked? You're a hypocrite, Andrew Holness, to be accusing me of anything in relation to FinSac when you have been a direct beneficiary of the losses of somebody who was FinSac, who lost their home because of FinSac.
Again, you go to attacking my wife when you, according to the Contractor General's report, benefited from a Sweetwater deal that was irregular. You benefited off the backs of the Jamaican people in creating your wealth. You were a connected party with the then Minister of Finance, and you advised and created the FinSac debacle with high interest rate. You benefited from FinSac. I did not purchase a FinSac house. I bought a house on the open market. And again, you come with weaponized lies. Your lies will not work.
We now go to closing statements. Now, based on the earlier coin toss, Mr. Mark Golding of the PNP will go first.
The general election next week, Wednesday, presents a historic opportunity for the people of Jamaica. After 13.5 years of belt-tightening and austerity, we are finally in a situation where the debt-to-GDP ratio has achieved, or is on the cusp of achieving, the 60%, which was written into the fiscal rules by Portia Simpson Miller. That means that the fiscal rules and prudent economic management can change gear and look at how we can grow the economy and build a society with a better quality of life for all. We see some serious issues that need to be addressed. 700,000 Jamaicans or thereabouts live on public land, lands where they've built their homes, but they don't have titles. The colonial era law set the period as 60 years of occupation before they can get ownership. We are going to reduce that to 25 years. We're going to give them titles. And that is going to unlock over $1 trillion of wealth, which is now sealed up and quarantined in the old colonial era law that is still on the books. That is why also we're increasing the threshold to 3.5 million, so working families who are struggling to make ends meet can get a little break so they can live a better life. It's why we're going to be removing the tax from the overtime pay of workers earning up to $6 million, so they can make it easier in life as well. And when I govern the country as Prime Minister to serve you, I will ensure that accountability and transparency are at the center of what we do, and any hanky-panky, any violation of the public trust will be met with the full force of the law with no protection from me. And that is a huge difference between the government I will lead and the government of Andrew Holness. That is why I'm asking you, on Election Day, next Wednesday, vote for the People's National Party. Put your X beside the head. Time come for a better life.
We now invite Dr. Andrew Holness of the JLP to go ahead with your closing statement.
The administration that I lead on your behalf has cut the debt in half. We have created 280,000 new jobs, brought in 85,000 persons into the labor force. We have tripled the minimum wage. We have cut murders by 55% over the last 3 years. You have had no new taxes to worry about. This administration has taken on the previously thought of impossible to solve problems, and we have solved them. We are an administration of performance. In our next term, our pensioners who have worked so hard will get a break. Those earning $6 million or below will pay no income tax. We will give a new income tax rate, which will be graduated, which will see everyone paying lower taxes. You will see 60,000 more houses being brought on the market, with 15% of them dedicated to to young people. We will give incentives to developers to build houses for young people. You will see a new transportation system for rural school children coming into being. You will see more work being done on reducing electricity. Our government is a government of performance. This election is about a clear choice. Promise or performance. That's what it is. You have to make a decision. Who can deliver? It is this administration that has taken on the difficult problems, and we have delivered for you. I ask you on election day to vote for what is best for Jamaica. Vote for a government that performs. Vote for the Jamaica Labour Party.